Grand Rising. Perfect. We are live on Instagram. This is being recorded for the YouTube. Let's wait for everybody to come in while I pull up deets on this week's astrology. Good morning, everybody. What's up? Good morning. How's everybody doing? How's the Mercury retrograde been? For everybody. It's been a little messy. Let me close this. There's got some weird lighting. There we go. Okay, cool. There we go. The lighting's a little bit better. How's your Mercury retrograde been? Has it been a little messy? Has anyone had an ex spin the block? Because it's been in the air. I've known quite a few people that have been dealing with lovers, friends, family members of the past coming back. Um, we have a new moon this week, and also Mercury retrogrades back into Scorpio. Oh, Lordy. How's everybody been? How's everybody doing? How's the Mercury retrograde treating everybody? We had Jupiter go retrograde last week. Yeah, last week was a very busy week for astrology. Um, this week is looking a little chaotic, my loves. I'm gonna be honest with you. This new moon is looking a little wild. We have a new moon coming up on the 19th or the 20th, depending on where you're at. If you're on the East Coast, it's going to be at 1:47 a.m. Eastern Time on November 20th. If you are on the West Coast, it'll be on November 19th at what, 10:47? 10:47 p.m. the 19th? I think so. Yeah, 10:47. If my math is correct. Math is not my strong suit, my loves. Okay. Let's see. Someone said, haven't been here in a while. Happy to be in your energy. Hi, good morning. Good morning. Let me wave at everybody. I can actually see the chat box today, which is good. So I'll be able to interact with you guys. Those of you guys live on the Instagram. We have a very busy week of astrology. Um, if this period is feeling a little chaotic, if this period is feeling a little unstable, if this period has been a little anxiety provoking for you, if it's been, you know, causing a lot of ruckus, causing a lot of dramatic shifts or changes in your life, it's because that's what it's supposed to be doing. This current energetic period that we're in is kind of meant to align us with a higher path or higher vision. It's meant to liberate us and free us from things that are outdated. And it's meant to move us towards things that are different, that are unique, that are more authentic or more true to who we are, or more true to our, like the path that the divine or spirit wants for us, you know? One of the things that I always say is that, the planets are intentional and the planets have their own goals and dreams and vision for us. The planets want things from us, right? And it's in my humble opinion that the planets are kind of doing God's work. They're the guides, they're the expression of God in made into these giant celestial bodies. And they have instruction for us, they have intention for us, they have a certain goal for us, they want us to accomplish or achieve certain things. And this is what our birth chart shows us, right? All the planets on our own birth chart are giving us guidance onto how to do our Mercury, how to do our moon, how to do our Saturn, how to do our sun, how to do our Venus. And when we are in alignment, what's so beautiful is when we are in alignment with our chart, we really, from this one, from my perception, this is from my experience as an astrologer, right? What I've noticed is that people that are really living out their chart and they're really living up to the highest vibration of the planets in their chart, they really get the most out of life. And they really find peace and joy and success. And their version of peace, joy, and success is unique to them, right? Like our the way we conceptualize like success, peace, joy, even love, partnership, right? It's unique to everyone. And our chart shows us how it's meant to show up for us, right? And nobody's joy, peace, love, nobody's happiness, nobody's purpose is going to look like anyone else's. It's not. It's like because why your life plan, just like your birth chart, is unique to you. It's like your thumbprint. Nobody has the same thumbprint as anybody else, right? And when we can really align ourselves with that truth and we can stop comparing ourselves to others, then we can take a deep dive into our own life, into our own self, into our own chart, okay? And we can really maximize and align with our own unique expression and the way that our chart is meant to be lived out and the way that we're meant to experience success, joy, happiness, whatever, right? So I think this is a beautiful new moon coming up on the 19th or the 20th, depending on where you're at. That's meant to kind of align us with, you know, authenticity and truth and with this new life that we're stepping into, this new reality that we're stepping into, right? And we don't want to get caught up in the chaos of the moment or become a victim to the chaos of the moment. We have to remind ourselves to stand on our power, right? We're coming out of a full moon in Taurus cycle. The full moon in Taurus over the last few weeks has been trying to help us ground and, has been helping us tap into our body. Like many of us have been asking our body over the last 2 weeks since the full moon in Taurus, what feels safe? What feels secure? What feels good, right? We've been having to listen to our body and how our body is responding to certain environments, certain people, certain experiences, certain emotions. And the body's been telling us since the full moon in Taurus over the last few weeks, this is safe, this is secure, this feels good, this feels right. But our body's also been telling us this is stressful, this is unsafe, this is unstable, this is not clear, this doesn't feel good in my body. And it doesn't have to be an external thing. It could also be a habit, a behavior, a way of thinking. It could be a lifestyle. It could be certain people, right? So if we're going to the external, certain people, certain environments, certain relationships that have been making you feel unsafe, making you feel unstable. We're already living in chaotic, unstable times. So we don't want to add more chaos and instability onto our plate by engaging in habits and behaviors, by connecting to people that are unsafe or insecure or not unsure, right? And the full moon in Taurus was reminding us, even in a period of chaos and a dramatic, quick change, we still have to find safety and security in our life in some type of way. And if anything, we find safety and security in the self, in the body, in who we are and where we're going and what we're doing, even if the world around us is falling apart, right? Or the world around us is on fire, right? And so, with this new moon in Taurus that we have coming up, everybody coming in, thank you for being here. Welcome. My name is Louie, the Soul Sage. I am an astrologer and a tarot reader, and I take an intuitive approach to it. And I do my own version of astrology that I call karmic astrology, which is merging a lot of different, practices of astrology and kind of making it my own. And kind of, what I do is I kind of read people's soul's journey. I read their soul's development. I kind of read their karmic timeline, the development of, who they are and what they're here to learn in this incarnation, right? Connecting it to past lives and connecting it to the future, right? So, yeah, so that's just a little bit about myself. For those of you that are new here, those of you that don't know me or you've never gotten a reading done by me, the majority of people here have gotten readings done by me. I'm looking at all the people in the chat, and a lot of you are, clients of mine, and you work with me regularly. But all right, let's get back to the astrology the week ahead. So, we're talking about the new moon that's going to be, oh, you like the pearls? Thank you. Talking about the new moon that's going to be the big feature of this week. This is a very intense new moon. This is a very intense period. And this is a period of, radical things coming to light, um drama, gossip, scandal, things coming to light with this new moon because we have a new moon that's going to be conjunct Mercury retrograde, and then we have this new moon on coming up on Wednesday, Thursday, depending on where you're at. That's going to be opposite Uranus and Taurus. And this new moon is so busy. This we have a new moon, the sun and the moon together in Scorpio. I'm actually going to pull up the chart. Let me look at it real quick because I don't even have the chart pulled up. It's going to be trine Saturn and Neptune. It's going to be trine Jupiter, and it's going to be opposing Uranus and Taurus, right? Like this is going to be a very, very intense new moon. But what's so interesting about this new moon, even though it's a new moon, because it's aspecting Neptune, Saturn retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, it's conjunct Mercury retrograde, there's this energy of having to go to the past before we can proceed and move forward with this new moon. The new moon is, what have you been holding on to? What have you emotionally invested in that is holding you back? What grief, what guilt, what shame, what trauma from relationships, what old broken-hearted love stuff, what family trauma, what Jupiter retrograde in Cancer being aspected by the new moon, what narratives and stories from your family lineage do you need to free yourself from? Do you need to release and let go of and stop telling yourself that same story, right? In order for you to be free, we have a new moon in Scorpio directly opposite Uranus and Taurus. Uranus, who's at the last degrees of Taurus, right? Uranus, he's been in Taurus for 7 years. Neptune has been in Pisces for 14 years. We have Neptune at the last degrees of Pisces, Uranus at the last degrees of Taurus. This tells us that this new moon is about wrapping up these longer narratives, these longer storylines that we've been living out, right? With Uranus and Taurus over the last 7 years, Neptune and Pisces over the last 14 years, right? Jupiter and Cancer, our family start Cancer, our history, the past, our relationship with our mother and our father, our upbringing, Jupiter retrograde and Cancer aspect of the new moon, right? There's something about we need to redefine, okay, what stories we're telling ourselves with this new moon, and we need to liberate ourselves from things that are outdated, things of the past. And we're coming to completion with these longer narratives, these longer stories that we've been telling ourselves, or that have been holding us back in some type of way, right? And it's so interesting because on the day of the new moon, we have the Mercury Cazimi. And, for those of you that don't know what a Mercury Cazimi is, I'll explain it to you. So, the Mercury Cazimi is when Mercury and the Sun are in an exact conjunction, but this is a Mercury Cazimi with Mercury going backwards, right? So, Mercury, he's going to go behind the Sun because he has to return to his original position when he started. Oh, he has to return back to like what is it, go behind the Sun, and he has to return back to the shadow position or the beginning of his shadow period, right? Because the midpoint of the Mercury retrograde is the Mercury Cazimi. So Mercury going back into Scorpio, right? Mercury going back onto the Sun or being conjunct the Sun and the Moon, because it's a new moon formation, so it's going to be Mercury conjunct the Moon as well. There's something about we're being drawn backwards and we're getting more information, scorpionic information about the past. And we're being shown, Mercury, the messenger, conjunct the Sun and the Moon, is telling us some kind of story with this new moon around outdated traumas, around, Mercury on the Moon, the story, the traumatic story that you have with your mother. If we think about it, right? Think about this. The moon is fallen in the sign of Scorpio. The moon is fallen in the sign of Scorpio. So during Scorpio season, we get a new moon with a fallen moon, with a moon that's weak. Why is the moon fallen in Scorpio? Because you put the moon in a sign ruled by Mars, right? One of the things that I think is so interesting is how the feminine planets, which are the Venus and the Moon, they go into their detriment and fall in the sign of Scorpio. Why do you think that is? Because you're putting the Moon and Venus, which are planets that are soft and sensitive and nurturing and loving and supportive and good, you're putting them in a sign ruled by Mars. You're putting them in the sign of trauma. You're putting them in the sign of betrayal. You're putting them in the sign of mistrust, right? And the way I like to think metaphorically of Venus and the Moon being in detriment and fall in the Scorpio, in the sign of Scorpio, is looking at Middle Eastern culture and looking at women's rights or how women are treated in Middle Eastern culture. Why is this? Because the Middle East is ruled by Scorpio. The Middle East is Scorpio. They have tons of wealth underneath the ground in the form of oil. Scorpio is connected to riches that are beneath the earth. So when we start talking about, if we're looking metaphorically for expressions of why Venus and the moon are falling in Scorpio, or even how that manifests, we can also look at how certain signs are connected to certain cultures and how Scorpio is really the Middle East. And what is it about Scorpio? Scorpio is a sign that's hidden, that hides things, that is about privacy, right? And what do we see with Middle Eastern women? They have to hide their faces. They have to hide their beauty. They have to wear these big garbs, right? Where you do not see their body, you do not see their faces, right? Their faces and their bodies, right? Everything that it is to be a woman goes into hiding, is repressed. Because this is why when we start to understand Scorpio, we start to understand why Venus and the moon are in detriment and fall in the sign of Scorpio. There's the divine feminine is wounded. The divine feminine is wounded in the sign of Scorpio. She's repressed. She's denied power. She's inhibited. She's not allowed to express herself. She's not allowed to express her body. She's not allowed to express her sexuality. She's not allowed to express her beauty, right? There's a woundedness, there's a rejection, there's a repression that we get. So when we're talking about a new moon in Scorpio, we're talking a little bit about the wounded feminine, especially because we're going to have a new moon with Venus also in the sign of Scorpio, right? So that's why my Venus, yeah, my Venus is in Scorpio. Listen, I know I have Venus in Scorpio. I'm a Scorpio sun, Mercury Pluto conjunction. I was born. It's so crazy because we have a new moon Scorpio Cazimi with Mercury, and I have the Sun Mercury conjunct in the sign of Scorpio, and I have Mercury retrograde in my chart. So this is part of like a karmic cycle for me as well, right? But the thing is, there's with this new moon conjunct Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, there's some kind of information that we're getting around our trauma. There's some kind of information that we're getting around the ways that we've repressed ourselves or denied ourselves. There's some kind of information that we're getting around, the way we've been mistreated, the way we've been brokenhearted, the way we've been betrayed, the way we've been deceived or manipulated, And I think this is one of the things that's been coming up for a lot of people. Um, since Venus entered Scorpio, like a week and a half ago, a lot of people there's been a lot of stories, a lot of narratives coming up around manipulation, betrayal, and around hidden intentions in relationships. Around like, what is this person's motive? What does this person want from me? We've been dealing with trust issues, in a lot of our connections. And this is not just with, mother and father, or this is not just with like mother and father and like family in the past and love and stuff. This is with friends as well. This is with, people in our day-to-day environment. We're just feeling a little like, what does this person want from me? What do I want from this person, right? And there's been this ongoing kind of narrative around getting to the core and the depth of our desires, getting to the core and the depth of what we really, really want. We've had this ongoing narrative with Mars, right? We had Mars going through the sign of Scorpio. We have Mars now in Sagittarius, but Mercury started retrograding on top of Mars. So this is why, if you've been feeling a little bit more irritable or angry during this Mercury retrograde, if you've been feeling a little bit more like, impulsive, you've been feeling more selfish, you've been feeling more autonomous, like you need independence, you need to do your own thing, or if you've been feeling like you got to lash out and you got to stand up for yourself and you got to like go to war for yourself in some type of way, well, that's because this Mercury retrograde started in a conjunction with Mars. Right? We had a Mercury Mars conjunction in Sagittarius last Wednesday. So Mercury going out of Sag, going back to Scorpio, this week. So what days does this happen actually? I think this happens on I think it happens on Wednesday. Yeah, it does happen on Wednesday. Yeah, it happens on Wednesday. Yeah, Mercury goes back to 29 degrees Scorpio. So we're gonna have Mercury at 29, trine Saturn, Neptune at 29, Saturn at 25, trine Jupiter at 25. We have the new moon on Lilith. New moon on Lilith, black moon Lilith is right there at 26 on the new moon. So this is definitely gonna be full of scandal and full of drama. One of the things, let's talk a little bit about Lilith in Scorpio. And let's talk about what Lilith in Scorpio has been about because Lilith has been really exposed. She's been exposing some really dark things with the government. She's been exposing things around, pedophiles and things like this. Lilith, so when we're talking about Lilith and Scorpio, right? We're talking about Lilith. This is one of the things that I don't see enough astrologers talk about, but this has been my experience as a reader, as someone who grounds Lilith into people's lived experience. Lilith has a lot to do with taboo. Lilith has a lot to do with trauma, but shameful, taboo sexual trauma. So when we're talking about things that make us uncomfortable, like pedophilia, my voice, I couldn't even get that word out because it's just so gross to me. Pedophilia, right? A molestation, incest, sexual deviancy against children. This is when Lilith enters the conversation because Lilith has a lot to do with these really deep, dark, taboo topics that we have collective shame, collective guilt, and collective trauma around, right? So when we're talking about, molestation that runs in the families and things like this, like we're talking about Lilith things, and you will see with people that deal with sexual trauma, they deal with rape, molestation, even stalkers. Women that deal with stalkers, very strong Lilith signature in their chart. They'll have Lilith on the ascendant, they'll have Lilith conjunct the sun, they'll have Lilith aspecting their Venus, they'll have Lilith aspecting their moon. They'll have a really, really strong Lilith signature because Lilith, right, as the empowered divine feminine, she gets abused and neglected by society. Lilith is the empowered, divine, wild, untamable, uncontrollable feminine, right? But Lilith, her mirror, her masculine mirror is Mars, right? Another deviant in his own, right? Mars is like a deviant, right? And so when we're talking about, Lilith, we're talking about these kind of darker, deeper, kind of like taboo topics where, and it may even be things that we have shame and guilt around in our own life. If we have, your Lilith placement will tell you where you have some kind of shame or guilt, where you rebel, where you've been repressed, where you've been denied, where you've been abused or neglected, where you've been ostracized. That's another narrative with Lilith. Lilith, she gets ostracized by society, right? She's the witch that gets banished, to live outside of the city or to live outside of the what do you call it? The village, right? She's the Lilith is the witch that lives on the outskirts of town. She's when we're sick or something, right? We have to go to her and bring her an offering, and we're scared to go to her because we're a little scared of Lilith because she's also magical. Lilith is also a magician. She's powerful. She's a witch. She's a herbalist. She's a healer. You know what I mean? She has a divine relationship to animals. So this is another thing that you'll see with women that have a really strong Lilith is they have a really strong relationship to the natural world. Lilith loves animals, right? She was banished from the Garden of Eden and she was left to walk the earth with all the animals. So all the animals are her children. So it's so interesting because one of the things I think, one of the signs I connect Lilith to is not only the sign of Scorpio, but I also connect Lilith to the sign of Virgo. I think Lilith has a deep relationship with the sign of Virgo because Lilith is a healer, right? But Lilith is also a prostitute. She's also a sex worker. You see? And Lilith, right? And that's something that it's so interesting because we think of Virgo as being a sign that's so morally pure and morally clear. But you know what? What you'll see is if you do readings for people that have done sex work like myself, I haven't done sex work, but I've done readings for sex workers. You'll see Virgo placements or you'll see six house placements. You know, there's something about Virgo that wants to be of service to others. And I think this is something that Lilith finds herself in a position as well, even though she's very powerful and she's very divine feminine and very strong within herself, she can also become subservient to other people in a relationship where she loses her power. And this is one of the things I've seen with women that have a strong Lilith signature is they attract these men that can be very powerful and very dominant that want to challenge her, that want to tame her. Lilith energy, what it does to men is it drives men crazy. Lilith women drive men insane. And let me explain, okay? Women become victims because there's Lilith energy is so sexually strong, it's so alluring that it brings out the worst of male sexuality. And what I've noticed with Lilith women is they get attacked by men. They get dominated and men try to control them because men don't know what they are just driven crazy by Lilith women sexually. Like they're like, I gotta have her, I gotta be with her, I'm obsessed with her, I gotta stalk her, I gotta like force her to be in a relationship with me, I gotta give her a baby, she needs to be dominated, she needs to be controlled, I need to tame her, like this is how men respond to Lilith women, Lilith energy. And Lilith, she's like, don't tell me what to do. Don't dominate me. Don't tie me down. I want freedom. I want space. Why are you so obsessed with me? You're a little weird. I kind of need a restraining order on you now. Like that's how Lilith, she has to protect herself. This is why one of the things I tell women that have a strong Lilith signature in the chart is one of the things I tell them during readings is I tell them, be careful with who you have sex with because your sex and your energy is like a drug. And you can drive a man insane when you are a Lilith woman. Okay, when you have Lilith energy, your sex, your desire nature is going to drive people crazy. And it could drive them to the brink of insanity. You'll see some really weird obsessive behavior come out, controlling behavior come out with men, when you're a Lilith woman. So you just want to be very mindful of who you give your attention and energy to. One of the things I also say though is that, women also, Lilith, there are men out there for Lilith. There are men who are meant to partner with Lilith. Or I don't even want to say men. I don't want to make this a gendered thing. But what I will say is there are people out there who are meant to be a partner to Lilith. And Lilith energy is very strong, is very powerful, very commanding. And a lot of times, what's so interesting about women that have a Lilith signature, or people that have a Lilith signature, is they kind of have to call the shots in their relationship. They need to be the powerful, strong one. And they need a man that's going to, or a partner, I don't want to say man, but a partner that's going to respect their autonomy, their authority, their power. That's also going to respect Lilith's sexuality, right? The women that I look to when I'm talking about Lilith as examples, and these are some women, you could look at their charts as well. Lilith woman, some examples. Pamela Anderson, okay? Um, Kim Kardashian, all right. Another Lilith woman is Megan Fox. Megan Fox. So, and what you'll notice about these women is they have this really intense magnetism, this really intense sexuality. But what you'll also notice is that many of them, I don't know about Megan Fox, but I know Pamela Anderson and Kim Kardashian, they've had very traumatic relationships with men that have tried to dominate them and control them, and men that have tried to subjugate them, you know? And they've been in very volatile relationships. Pamela Anderson, she's been in domestically abusive relationships as well. So, when we're talking about Lilith, we're talking about the divine feminine. It's very strong and very powerful, but she could also be very self-destructive and very wild. And I think this is one of the things that, especially if you look at the life of Pamela Anderson, a lot of the choices and decisions that she made, there's a certain level of self-destructiveness. It's like when that wild, untamed energy becomes too chaotic and it becomes, destructive, right? And so that's something we also got to be aware of. If you are a Lilith woman, if you're a Lilith person, if you have a strong Lilith, I have a strong Lilith signature in my chart. I have Lilith and Leo squaring my sun in Mercury and Scorpio. And so it's so interesting to see, how my Lilith shows up because Lilith and Leo is shame, Lilith around identity, Leo, right? And growing up as a gay man, as an LGBT man, having experienced my Lilith and Leo as being ashamed of my identity, being ashamed of who I am, not being able to express myself, having to hide myself, having to repress my identity, Lilith and Leo things, right? Um, it's been an evolutionary process of reclaiming my Lilith and Leo power, right? Reclaiming this energy and this ability to shine or glow or take up space. And take a look at your Lilith placement. Take a look at your Lilith placement. Where do you have Lilith by sign, by house? What is Lilith aspecting? Most when you put your chart in online and stuff on AstroSeek, it's not going to draw aspects to Lilith. Most most free, natal chart programs or websites. So you want to, extended menu, draw aspects to Lilith to see how what Lilith is aspecting. Because Lilith, if she's aspecting your Venus, if she's aspecting your Mars, if she's aspecting your Saturn, she is going to modify the expression of those planets. She's going to modify the expression of those planets, and you're going to see her manifest around energies like that. You know what's so interesting? Like, for instance, I'll give an example of Lilith Saturn. Okay. So Saturn is the planet of career, and Saturn is the planet of older men or of older people. Okay. So when you have Lilith and Saturn together, what you'll see, especially if you're a woman, is when you go into the workplace or when you're out in the town and doing your thing, you're going to have old men hit on you in creepy, weird ways. If you ever have a boss, let's say you're a woman when you have Lilith Saturn in aspect to each other, you have a boss that's an older man. Guess what? He can come on to you. He can try to sexually manipulate you. He can, sexually harass you at the workplace when you have Saturn and Lilith together, right? Saturn is a planet of government, of older people, of authority figures. And so, also, one of the things I've noticed is when people have Saturn and Lilith in aspect to each other, they can experience abuses of power in government authorities or in people that they expect to act with moral and virtue. So, they can go to the doctor and deal with a weird experience with the doctor. They can go to a therapist and have a really weird experience with the therapist where the therapist takes advantage of them, mentally, emotionally, sexually, something like this, right? Because those are Saturn, those are professions connected to Saturn, right? So it's important. I think it's important that we understand our Lilith and we develop a relationship with Lilith and we look to see how Lilith manifests our own life so that we can, experience the higher vibration, the highest vibration of Lilith and not the lowest vibration. One of the things I'm always looking to is like, how does the astrology actually manifest and show up in your life? Like, that's what I'm looking for. Like, we can talk about, what it means on an energetic level. We could talk about what it means on a personality, on an individuality level, on a psychological level. But one of the things I'm always looking to is like, are these planets, how is your chart actually physically manifesting in your life? Where are we seeing these signatures, in your life? Because that's where astrology becomes real. Once you can make astrology real and tangible for people where you can be like, oh yeah, this aspect is look how it showed up in your life, then it makes sense for people, then we can actually it makes the astrology applicable, right? All right, so let's get back to the new moon. Hold on, I was like pulling it up. I was just went on a little tangent real quick. Let me do the time chart. Okay, there we go. Okay, cool. Let me put this in whole sign. Okay, go. Any other planets change signs this week? I don't think so. Well, I'm just pulling up the new moon chart. It's like get more details on it. Okay. Oh, okay. It's gonna be at 28 degrees, I believe. Yeah, 28 degrees. Oh, wow. Yeah, we have a 28-degree new moon. So, what degree is 28? Anyone? Pop quiz. If we're talking about degree theory, what degree is the 28th degree? Anybody know? Anybody know? Anybody know what sign rules the 28th degree? Wow, that is a crazy new moon, y'all. We have a crazy new moon this week. I'm just looking at the fullness of the chart. I'm like, wow. 28 degrees is a Cancer degree. 28 degrees is Cancer. So we have a really strong kind of like home, privacy, the past, family, the mother. We have a really strong kind of like signature around ancestry in the past and home and family and things like this for this upcoming new moon on Thursday. Um, we have Lilith at 26, Sun at 28, Mercury at 28, Moon at 28 degrees Scorpio, Venus at 16 Scorpio. We have this new moon stellium with Sun, Lilith, Mercury, Moon, trining Neptune and Saturn in Pisces. Neptune at 29, Saturn at 25, and also trining Jupiter in Cancer at 25. We have this beautiful grand water trine. I'm actually really liking this new moon. I think this is a new moon that's going to be full of reward for people. I think this is a new moon that's really going to be about certain people setting a new foundation or like getting prepared or getting ready for a big dramatic life change. I'm kind of getting, it's like I'm getting like the death card, but I'm getting like where it's like death card energy at 6 a.m. when the sun is like rising again. So it's like we've already been through the darkness of the night. We've been through the dark night of the soul. We've gone through the tragedy and the chaos and the loss. We've gone through all that. And there's this energy of like the sun is coming back out again. And we're like beginning something new. We're moving towards something new. We're planting new seeds or something new. I think this is a beautiful new moon to manifest because it's aspecting Jupiter. A new moon aspect in Jupiter is always wonderful, but it's also in a grand trine with Saturn. And when Jupiter and Saturn are in a trine with each other, they're working together, especially because you got to think about this, right? Saturn is in Jupiter's sign right now. So the strongest planet amongst all, in this new moon is actually Jupiter. Jupiter is in an exalted state, right? Venus, she's in detriment. The moon is fallen. The sun's all right in Scorpio, but Saturn's in Pisces, Jupiter sign. So Jupiter is kind of like the strongest planet in this new moon formation coming up on Thursday. And Jupiter is kind of asking you for this new moon, where do you want to plant new seeds of creation, new seeds of love, new seeds of family? Where is home for you? Even though it's a new moon in Scorpio, Jupiter in this new moon formation is asking us, what is home for you? What feels safe? What feels secure? What feels peaceful? What feels comfortable? And the new moon opposite Uranus it kind of wants us to break free from the things that are traumatic or unstable or unsafe in some type of way. It wants us to break free from the things that are also lacking. I don't know. I'm looking at Saturn trining the new moon. What brings the energy of lack in your life? What brings the energy of deprivation? Of this isn't enough. There's just, it's like this person isn't doing enough. This job isn't paying me enough. You know what I mean? Like, there just isn't enough. I need more. There's this big question around, like, what does more look like for me? Right? Like, we're asking ourselves, what does more look like for me? Because where have I just been settling or compromising, or where have I just been accepting the bare minimum? Where have I just been like, okay, this is okay, but I know I deserve more, I desire more, I want more, I'm entitled to more. I know that, I feel that, right? So it's like, where do we need to just take a look at our life and be like, okay, you know what? This right here, this thing, this relationship, this job, this whatever over here, this habit, this behavior, this mindset, this is an expression of lack. This is an expression of deprivation. This is an expression of trauma. This is an expression of, just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's, good or healthy. And I think sometimes, right, when we're talking about like security and safety, sometimes we can attach ourselves or feel safe and secure with things that are actually not really not good for us, or that are a manifestation of lack because we think that we don't deserve more or deserve better. And I think we really need to take a really deep, cold, hard look at ourselves and look at the things that we're connected to during this new moon cycle coming up. And we need to take a look at where is Saturn trying to reveal to us that, this energy is not going to be returned in equal measure, or this energy is a manifestation, or this thing is a manifestation of how we don't think we're worthy or deserving, or how we accept less than, right? And so I think we really need to think about this with this new moon. All right. The thing also with Neptune aspecting Mercury, Neptune at 29 degrees, aspecting Mercury at 28 degrees, retrograde, is the unveiling of illusion, the unveiling of deception, the unveiling of things that are confusing or foggy or that are not real. So what we're gonna see with a lot of people for this new moon site for this new moon, and starting this week, we're gonna see a lot of people kind of peering through the fog and getting clarity on things that have been very confusing or unsure in their life. The Mercury trine Neptune, the Mercury trine Saturn, the new moon trine Neptune Saturn, especially because Saturn and Neptune retrograde, it's like the fog is being removed. It's like the rose-colored glasses are being taken off. And it's now time for us to see things clearly. Okay? Um, if you have anything, so who's this new moon going to impact the most this week? Anybody that has placements around 28 degrees of a fixed sign. So if you have anything in the last decan of a fixed sign, Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, this new moon is going to be squaring you. If you're a Leo or Aquarius, it's going to be opposing you if you're a Taurus, or it's going to be conjoining you, sitting in a conjunction with you if you are a Scorpio. Okay. You may, if you are a fixed sign, if you have fixed placements, you may see the new moon physically manifest in your life or kind of agitate things or stir some drama up or trigger some things to kind of create momentum or create movement or like to get you to move in some type of way. Okay. The fixed signs are signs that, they don't like change. Fixed signs, they like stability, they like security, they like consistency. Fixed signs, they like things to be the same. Fixed signs are by far the most stubborn of all the signs. When we're talking about, the triplicities, of the cardinal, mutable, and the fixed. Fixed signs are by far the most stubborn, okay? And they're the most resistant to change because we look to fixed energy to stabilize us. We look to the fixed signs to create, structure and foundation, right? So, but the fixed signs are being challenged to evolve with this new moon. This new moon is like, I don't care, if you're uncomfortable. I don't care if you don't want to evolve. I don't care if you want to stay attached or you want to stay stuck or you want things to be the same. The new moon is like, no, fixed signs. It's time for change. Dramatic, erratic, uncomfortable, unsafe change. Okay? Change that is much overdue. Just intuitively. I feel like, Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, there's been certain things, certain patterns, certain lifestyles, certain people. There's just certain ways of being and living that have just been like, okay, we're just doing this, we're just doing this, we're just doing this. But it's not actually who you are, and it's not actually what you want. It's not actually the way you're meant to be living. Okay. And this new moon is like, all right, this is your liberation point. This is your transformation point. This is your dramatic change point. This is your, we're doing everything different moving forward point. This is maybe the exit point for some of you. This could be your exit point, okay? Or your entry point. I don't know. Really depending on where you're at in your own life, right? But I do think like, fixed signs are the ones undergoing emancipation, freedom, reclamation of power, a little bit of instability, maybe a couple tower moments, much needed tower moments, and also rebellion. I think that's going to be a big theme with this new moon. We're going to see it all across the world with, overturning of governments and, people taking to the streets. We're already seeing that. But the sun and the moon, sun, moon, and Mercury opposite Uranus for the new moon is kind of like people also being incredibly rebellious and people being like, no, fuck that. I don't want to do that. Don't tell me what to do. I want to do my own thing. We may also see teenagers, if you are someone that has teenage children, your teenagers may be acting up with this new moon, okay? Because Uranus is so active, Uranus is really, when we're talking about Uranus, we're talking about, this energy, this Aquarian energy. We're talking about our teenage years. We're talking about our midlife crisis. It's so interesting because our Uranus opposition happens around 40 to 44. That's when we experience our Uranus opposition, and that's when the majority of people experience their midlife crisis and they create some kind of like they make some kind of dramatic shift or dramatic change in their life around that age from like 40 to 44. They may break up with a husband or a wife, right? They may, start dating someone younger. They may dye their hair purple. They may, buy a motorcycle, right? And go back because we go during our Uranus opposition around the age, we go back to our teenage years. We go back to that Uranian energy again, Our Uranus square is also around the age of 20 to 22. And listen, most of us are early 20s, okay? Those ages 20 to 24, that's our first Uranus square. And that's a very wild, chaotic time for many of us. How many of you were being wild children, or you were being crazy adults in your early 20s? You were doing the most insane, erratic, troubling, menacing. How many of you? Your early 20s were not a period of peace. There was a period of chaos and being rambunctious, right? I also think, our early 20s, because of that Uranus square around our early 20s, I think we're trying to find, our path in life. It's that first Uranus square in our early 20s is really one it's exciting. It feels very, oh, it's my first time being an adult, I could drink now, 21, I could drink now if you're in the States, right? And we feel very much adult-like. We feel very free or emancipated and independent, but we're also doing it in a way that's very chaotic and very responsible a lot of times, because Uranus can also be an energy that's very irresponsible. It's very negligent of rules and structure. It's very rebellious. It's like, I don't want to do what everyone else is doing. I don't want to do what my family and my parents are telling me to do. I don't want to do what society is telling me to do. I want to do my own thing. I want to rebel, but it can also be, Uranus can also be, a rebel without a cause, someone or an energy that's just causing us, pushing us towards chaos and destruction without any intention, without any purpose, but because we're craving something unique or different, or because we're craving space or freedom, right? So I think you just need to be very mindful of this energy, especially fixed signs. If you have anything in the last degrees of a fixed sign, in the last 10 degrees of a fixed sign, be very mindful of this, okay? This new moon is going to be most beneficial for the water signs and the earth signs, though. So if you're a water sign or earth sign, if you have your big three there, you have your sun, moon, or rising in a water sign or earth sign, this new moon is going to be very positive, very good for the water earth side of your chart or parts of your chart, where I do believe that fire signs and air signs, or the fire air parts of your chart, may struggle or may struggle a little bit, okay, with this new moon. One of the things about the water signs, there's a lot of water in the sky right now, right? We have a lot, and we have Saturn, Neptune, North Node in Pisces. We have Jupiter in Cancer. We have Venus, Lilith, Sun, Mercury, and soon to be the moon. The moon's in Libra right now, but soon to be the moon in Scorpio, right? In a water sign. There's a lot of water element energy, and water energy is kind of, I think, one of the most. I think it's a challenging element to work with of all the elements, because the water element pulls us into the emotional experience, and it pulls us into the unseen experience of life. The water element has a lot to do with things that are hidden, things that are unknown, things that are mysterious, things that are private, things that are secret, things that we repress or that we forget, or even things that are forgotten, things that come up missing, people that come up missing. That's Pisces, that's a lot to do with the 12th house. That's Pisces and Scorpio. That's the 12th house, 8th house. Right. And so it's like when we're talking about the water element, we're having to work with these things that are uncomfortable, that are kind of dark and scary, right? And we need to lean in. We need to lean in to the emotional experience. We need to lean into the depth. We need to lean into, the secrecy and the hidden stuff and the occult stuff. And we need to lean into the emotions and the feelings of our lived experience when we have so much water in the sky, right? So if you've been feeling very emotional lately, your emotions have been really feeling very strong or very erratic or very powerful, or emotions have been feeling very overwhelming, it makes sense because there's so much water in the sky. There's so many planets in water signs, and we got to honor that, okay? The water element is very, very powerful when it's channeled, the water element is creative, is spiritual, is intuitive, the water element, it births babies. Like babies are born out of the darkness. They come out of the womb. The womb is ruled by the moon in Scorpio and Mars, right? The womb is ruled by the moon and Mars. There's a creative force, right? Babies are born out of the darkness. They're born out of nothing. This is the power of the water element. This is the power of, it's like there's this sacred divine creation with the water element that we need to honor. So, okay. All right, my loves. Well, I don't even know how an hour has gone by. What? What? Where's the Where'd the time go? All right, I got my I got my little teapot. Listen, I've upgraded. I got a whole teapot now, so my tea doesn't get cold. I'm drinking some like lung because I've been having like weird lung congestion. I'm drinking green tea too. Give me energy. All right, let's dive into the week ahead. Let's dive into the play by play. Okay. Because I've been talking a lot about the new moon because the new moon is the big feature of this week. Okay, the new moon is the big feature of this week, and also the Mercury retrograde. If you are a mutable sign, before we dive into the week ahead, if you are a mutable sign, I want you to be very mindful of Mars and Sagittarius. If you are Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, or Sag, we have Mars at 11 degrees Sag. Mars is going to get, I think, to like maybe 17 or 18 degrees this week, I believe. Oh, no, 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 no. I'm over here looking at him on Wednesday. No, no, no. Mars is going to get to, don't tell me he's going to get to 13. He goes to, yeah, he's gonna be at 13. Let's just square my ascendant. He's gonna get to 14 degrees Sag by Sunday. So if you're a mutable sign, Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sag, and if you have anything around the middle degrees of a mutable sign, um, I want you to be mindful of Mars. Okay? I want you to be mindful of Mars this week. Only because the mutable signs are being activated by Mars. They're getting hit by Mars. Mars is actually inspiring and motivating the air signs and the fire signs. So if you are an air sign or a fire sign, you've probably been feeling a little bit more inspired, a little bit more motivated by Mars's presence in Sagittarius. But if you're a mutable sign, Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sag, Mars is aspecting you with a conjunction, an opposition, or a square. And Mars may be causing some kind of friction or some kind of tension. He could be causing some kind of agitation. He could be causing some kind of conflict or war, frustration, especially if you're a mutable rising. If you are Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, or Sag rising, you have Mars transiting one of your angles right now, right? You have Mars going through your 10th or your first or your fourth or your seventh. I want you to be mindful of the drama and the tension and the conflict or the war, the irritation or the frustration that, or even, possibly the trauma, pain, that Mars could be causing or triggering. Okay, just be mindful because, Mars is going to move into square at my ascendant. So I'm expecting next weekend for me, I'm just thinking about my own chart. I'm expecting some kind of maybe attack on my public image or my public character or, some kind of issue with my dad or even my mom because maybe I have a 10th house Saturn that is connected actually to my mom. So I don't know. We'll see how this manifests. But yeah, just be mindful of Mars mutables, okay? Mars attacking you. And this could also just be like you fall and you hurt yourself. The combination of Mercury retrograde, Mars pops one of your tires, your transmission goes out, you drop your phone and it breaks, something like this, So Mars doesn't necessarily have to be about conflict or war or fighting, but Mars can also be about, the breaking of things. Mars likes to break things, okay? The positive place to put this energy, putting this energy into something that's, into the physical form, into working out, into, asserting yourself, into doing something that you're passionate about, into doing something that requires a degree of courageousness or bravery. Mars and Sag may push you to go somewhere that you've never been before. May inspire you to do something you've never done before, you know? So just lean into that, okay? Are you guys talking still? Are people still talking? I'm not, the chat isn't scrolling anymore. I don't know why this seems to happen. Are you guys still here? Are you guys still talking? I'm not seeing the chat anymore. I was seeing the chat up to a certain point, and then the chat just. If you guys have something to say to me, you can always say it in the question box, okay? Because I can't see the chat anymore. All right, let's get into the week ahead play by play. Okay, we're an hour in. I've pretty much been talking about the new moon, but I feel like there's going to be more that I have to say about it in a few days. I'll probably do a live on the new moon and kind of go maybe over the signs or something in a later this week. Okay, maybe on Wednesday. I think I'll do that on Wednesday, maybe. So let you guys know about that. Okay. Let's see what people are saying. Yeah, everyone is still chatting away. Oh, that's cool. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. That's great. Oh, you know what I could do? Oh, maybe I can do this. Let's see. Be the man I need. Talk to me. I've been really into Olivia Dean lately. Talk to me. Talk to me, talk to me. Be the man that I need, baby. Talk to me, talk to me. Be the man that I need. Okay, hold on. Let me plug it in, plug it in. What I'm doing is I'm plugging in my iPad so I can pull up my live on the iPad. So I can look at the chat on the iPad. Look at that, problem solving. That's me. I'm a problem solver. All right. So we start off this week today with the moon in Libra. Let's go back to this current moment. We have the moon in Libra, 28 degrees. Okay. So we've had the moon in Libra. Let's do a little recap. We've had the moon in Libra over the last 3 days. The last 3 days, art, beauty, fashion, moon in Libra things. Let me pull up this. Let me pull up my chat on here. Pull up Instagram. But the moon is separating from Chiron and Aries. So, the over this past weekend, I want you to think about possible wounding that came up in your partnerships or in relationships or friendships. And kind of like, what did the moon show you over the last weekend around injustice, around a lack of fairness, a lack of equality, a lack of balance in your life in some type of way with the moon in Libra? And, where was there possible wounding or even healing that happened? Okay. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Trying to pull up my I'm trying to pull up my own live. Why can't I see my own live on here? It's so crazy. Hold on, give me a second, y'all. Aw, let's not do that. Hold on, I'm almost in. I wanna participate. I wanna be able to see the chat. So hold on, give me a second. I gotta put in my password. So weird how I can't even see my own live. Please let this be my password. Oh, it is. Nice. Hold on, y'all. I'm almost there. Give me a quick second. I'll be right back. Give me a second. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm in. 3, 3, 1. I'm in. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. I'm watching myself. Okay, cool. I'm gonna put this up right here so I can see the chat. I can participate in the chat from another account. Listen, are you a real Scorpio if you don't have like 4 or 5 Instagram accounts? Like, come on, Like I listen, anybody with Scorpio placements or eighth house placements, and you have like your backup account, and then you have your backup account, and then you got the backup account, and then you got that account that you used to spy on people with. That's you got your mind games account. Any Scorpios out there? Any people with eighth house placements? We got You got the secret account. You got the account that you used to spy on people with. You went and blocked them on your main account, but then you're over here spying and checking on them on the other account. I see you. I see you. I see you. Okay, let's dive in. So, Moon in Libra over the past weekend. Moon in Libra separating from Chiron. The Moon in Libra has been a little dramatic, was a little dramatic possibly this past weekend around love, romance, partnerships, connections, friendships, because the dispositor of the Moon in Libra this past weekend was Venus, where in Scorpio. Venus in Scorpio has been digging up a lot of stuff around love and relationships and stuff and like trauma and stuff like that with love. Venus in Scorpio has been asking us about our love life. Like, is this in conjunction with the new moon or the full moon in Taurus that we had, right? That was ruled by Venus, who was at the last degrees of Libra. So we had a full moon in Taurus a week and a half ago now, almost 2 weeks ago now, that was ruled by Venus, who was at 28, 27 degrees Libra. And Venus, right a little bit after the full moon, she ingressed into Scorpio. And since she's been in Scorpio the last week and a half, 2 weeks, someone said allegedly. um, since she's been in Scorpio, she's been kind of bringing up she's been drudging up a lot of the shadows, a lot of the triggers, a lot of the trauma, a lot of the hidden things, a lot of the repressed emotions, a lot of the things that we've been afraid to say. She's been drudging a lot of that stuff up in our connections, in our partnerships, in our intimate one-on-one relationships, right? And I feel like Venus and Scorpio has been asking us collectively of the people that we're connected to, has been asking us, can I trust this person? Does this person really value me or appreciate me, right? If this does this person desire me, maybe, does this person want something from me that they're not being clear or upfront about, does this person really appreciate what I bring to the table? Does this person give back what I put in, right? Can I feel safe with this person? Is this person hiding anything from me? Is this person keeping any secrets from me, right? Venus and Scorpio has been amping up our intuition when it comes to relationships and partnerships. She's been putting us into our feelings. She's been having us feel into things more, right? Let me feel into this relationship. Let me feel into this person. Let me feel into this situation. Does this feel good? Does this feel right? Does this feel stable? Does this feel trustworthy? Does this feel safe? Or does this feel scary? Does this feel unsafe? Does this feel unstable? Does this feel like there's something hidden? Does this feel like they're lying to me? It feels like, we really, with all this water element energy in the sky, we really got to be leaning into our intuition right now. We got to be leaning into our gut. What are your guts telling you? Scorpio. Scorpio rules the colon, right? Talk to your colon. What is your colon telling you about things right now, about people right now, about whatever? Like your colon is either going to tell you yes or tell you no. Your guts are going to tell you yes or tell you no. The body is a very good barometer of yes and no. And I think we got to learn what yes and no feels like in the body. So to know when our body's like, ugh, ugh, when our body's repelling something, when our body's pushing something in a way, when our body's rejecting something or somebody, we gotta listen to that. We gotta feel into that. A lot of times we go against what our body is telling us about others or about a situation or even about an environment. There may be a living environment where your body's telling you, oh, this is a no, this is a no, this is a no. You gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta go. This is not safe. This is not stable. This is, there's some weird shit going on here. We gotta listen. So with, the moon going into Scorpio today, um, and during our new moon in Scorpio, our new moon in Scorpio coming up on Wednesday, because we're gonna be in the new moon energy though, starting today though. I just want to let y'all know that, okay? Because even though the new moon doesn't go exact until Wednesday night, Thursday morning, early Thursday morning, we're in the new moon energy already, okay? So yeah, 28-degree moon in Libra separating from Chiron. So yeah, so what I was saying is that with the moon in Libra over the past weekend, ruled by Venus and Scorpio, there's a lot of questions being asked around what hurts, and what is balance, what is fair in our relationships, what does equality look like to me, and opportunities for healing or even experiences of woundedness possibly. Saw lots of angel numbers in the third eye, feels wide open. It's telling me they're hiding something and I'm not about to wait to find out. I've had wounding as well, but also transformative healing with another. I love that. Anthony said that it brought a lot of old wounds towards dating up for him. Um, Mrs. Seaton said, received a rose at my home address from an anonymous sender. I love that for you. Someone said allegedly. I Spy with my naked eye, right? Some of y'all who had the I Spy books. You guys remember the I Spy books from our childhood? Or I'm like 37. Wait, am I 38 now? I'm 38 now. Do you guys remember like the I Spy books? You had to like there was like these really big, intricate books. They weren't big, but they were like physically big, but they weren't like long. But there were like books where you had to like find certain things in like very intricate pictures. You guys remember those? I was so good at those, and I loved those. And that was so Scorpio of me. Um, Someone said yes. Someone said having issues at daycare with your daughter. Okay, yeah. Someone said they remember those books. Yeah, those were so cool. Those were like my childhood. Those were those were my childhood. Um, okay, issues. Okay, so with Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, I think because Sagittarius is on the axis with Gemini. We should, not we should, but it's possible that we're going to experience issues with people with like government, professors, lawyers, teachers, neighbors, aunts, uncles, siblings. Okay? Because Mercury's retrograding opposite of Gemini, and Mercury's retrograding in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is connected to these people. Sagittarius is connected to people that are like teachers that have wisdom or knowledge, like, therapists, professors, like even doctors, lawyers, this is what Sagittarius, the sign of Sagittarius is connected to. Kind of like people that we go to for like consultation. So with Mercury retrograding in Sagittarius, opposing Gemini, you want to be mindful of miscommunication issues or having to replan or having to revisit or having to reschedule or cancel plans or even just having some kind of mishap in some type of way or misunderstanding with those people or those things. One of the things I always say, which is so important during Mercury retrograde, is you always got to stay flexible and you got to expect to do things two or three times or to say things two or three times before you get clarity, before you get an answer, before you figure out the problem of this or before you figure out the problem to this or you get the solution figure, you get the solution, right? So it's when Mercury is retrograde and you also got to think Mercury is retrograde in a sign that he doesn't do well in. Mercury is retrograde in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is where Mercury's in his detriment. Sagittarius is a sign of truth. Sagittarius is a sign of belief. It's a sign of our morals and our ethics. So it's connected to that because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter and Mercury are not friends. Okay, they don't get along. They're opposite of each other, right? Jupiter is more about what I believe, and Mercury is more about what I think. So what you do is you put Mercury, the planet of thinking, in the sign of believing, and you get a little bit of a mismatch. You get misinformation. You get people who have very strong opinions and they believe that they're right and they're very self-righteous, but they don't have the information or the facts or they haven't done the research to back up their beliefs or their opinions. That's why Mercury is in detriment in Sagittarius. It's because we haven't actually dissected through the information. Also, you got to think about it like this. Sagittarius is a sign, being a fire sign, that's more concerned with what I think, with what I believe, right? Sagittarius is a sign that's not necessarily concerned with listening and conversation and what the other person is thinking. No, Sagittarius is a sign that's more about this is a fire sign thing, what I think, what I believe, right? So during this Mercury retrograde, we can feel very staunchly attached to our own beliefs, our own opinions, our own ideas. We could believe that we're right and we can be unwilling to listen or to have a conversation or even to be just open and receptive to the other person's idea, the other person's opinion, the other person's perspective, right? So what we want to do is we want to stay very flexible. We want to stay very bendable. We want to stay very considerate, very open-minded with Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. We don't want to be overly attached to our own beliefs, our own opinions, our own ideas. We got to learn how to listen. Okay. Communication is a two-way street. And sometimes when you stop and you listen and you go quiet and you just stop running your yapper, right? You'll actually be like, wow, I was mishearing this. It was a misunderstanding. It was a miscommunication. And also the phrase, you catch a lot more flies with honey over vinegar just came to me, right? One of the things I've noticed with with the sign of Sagittarius, and I've noticed this with Sag, and I've noticed this with Sag women especially. Oh my goodness. Sag women can be very quick to speak and very quick to escalate their communication to a very angry or irritated place. They can, I've just seen this. I think Sag men are a little bit more chill. This is just me, generalizing or whatever. But anyways, this is a bit from my experience. Sag women, okay, can be very feisty and they can be very rebellious. They have very strong opinions and they can be more concerned with what they think or what they say. And they can be a little angry and they can go off, okay? And they can look at their version of the truth is the right thing. All right? And so we want to be very mindful of our anger. We want to be very mindful of irritation. We want to be Mars is in Sag, right? We want to be very mindful of the way that we communicate, and we want to have effective communication. But if you need to go off and you need to like let it all out, let someone know what you're thinking, you need to express your truth. Because Sagittarius is a sign of truth, right? Sagittarius is a sign of truth. If you need to express your truth in a way that, someone doesn't like because, you've had it and they're not listening and you need to really raise your voice a little bit to express that truth, you go and do that, my love. But just be mindful, okay? Because Mercury. Someone said Sagittarius in the 11th. I was ready to cut my neighbors off. Wow. Well, that makes sense because that means you are let's see, Sag, Capricorn, Aquarius rising. I think you're an Aquarius rising, right? Sag in the 11th, Capricorn, Aquarius. Then you have Pisces and you have Aries in the third house. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, Aquarius rising is always having problems with their neighbors or with siblings and stuff or aunts and uncles. Aquarius rising is a rising sign that, has trouble with neighbors. Um, because they have Mars ruling the third house. They have third house in Aries. So you want to take a look at your houses ruled by Mars, like your Scorpio and your Aries houses. And those are the areas of your life where you're gonna probably get into war or go into conflict, or you're gonna experience some kind of irritation. You're gonna have to fight for yourself in those areas of your life, in those houses, those parts of your chart. Your Scorpio and your Aries house. Or houses. If you're looking at Placidus chart, right, you can have a sign that spans a few different houses. So, yeah, Aquarius rising things. That's why Aquarius rising is always fighting with their siblings as well because they have Aries in the third house. So Aquarius is always getting bullied by their Aquarius is always getting bullied by somebody. They get bullied in school. They get bullied in their by siblings. They get bullied by a stranger, by an aunt or an uncle. They get bullied by a neighbor. Because Aquarius has Aries in the third house. Aquarius has Aries in the third place from their sign. So Aquarius, you're gonna always see Aquarius. They're fighting a brother. Okay, they're fighting a neighbor. They're getting picked on by a kid at school. Okay, there's somebody that they're fighting in their local environment. All right, let's get back to astrology the week ahead. Okay, so the moon goes into Scorpio. We're gonna have the moon in Scorpio. Um, Starting today up until Thursday. So what I will say with the moon in Scorpio over the next 3 days, I'm taking a look to see. Oh, the moon's gonna square Pluto. Ugh, the moon's gonna square Pluto. So we do have a moon Pluto square showing up around 2 p.m. today Pacific time. That'll be around 5 p.m. Eastern. The moon goes into Scorpio and it squares Pluto immediately. Okay. So what I will say is you guys are so funny. I'm looking at the chat. So Curly Rose says, someone made a rumor I have an OnlyFans. Someone made a rumor I have an OnlyFans, and another female doesn't like me. I'm the building because I smiled at him, but the neighbors are cool with her. Listen, my loves, okay? Rumors and scandals, all right? Lilith and Scorpio for the new moon. Lilith and Scorpio, okay? If you get caught up in a scandal or in a rumor, or if someone accuses you of something, um, maybe it might be true. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, we just got to be mindful of the scandals and the rumors, okay, with Lilith and Scorpio for the new moon. Because there's going to be a lot of just like scandals and gossip and a lot of he said, she said. And we got to have our discernment goggles on. We got to listen to, our heart. And we got to be like, okay, is this true? Is this real? Or is this just like, is this just a mess? Is this just someone gossiping? A lot of that's a Mercury retrograde thing too. Honestly, we get a lot of scandals when Mercury goes retrograde as well. We get a lot of scandals and stuff like that. Look at what's going on with Trump, and look what's going on with the Epstein files. Oh my God, this has been a crazy Mercury retrograde. Am I right? So, all right, so yeah, the moon goes into Scorpio today around 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern. And the moon's gonna square Pluto. And the moon square Pluto, it can be a little bit of an emotional upheaval. The energy can dramatically shift later on today where, we feel this need to purge or release or let go of something emotionally or we become very aware of something that hurts, I'm thinking of the moon square Pluto as, something that hurts and maybe, emotional memories of times where we've been rejected or times where, things um have just like hurt, traumatic moments kind of resurface with the moon square Pluto. So just be mindful this evening of emotional energy and things kind of being drudged up from the surface. I think the moon going to Scorpio today is going to it's going to begin this initiation process of us fully going into the underworld for this new moon in Scorpio, right? It's the sun and the moon both in the sign of Scorpio. It's been a long Scorpio season. Actually, it hasn't been that long. I feel like this Scorpio season just went by really, really fast, just like blew by. It's been a little bit of a dramatic Scorpio season. Um, uh, some people life changing. But I do think with the moon in Scorpio starting today over the next 3 days, we're kind of going fully into the underworld. We're going fully into the realms of emotion, the realms of the unseen and the unknown. We're kind of diving into this mystery, this collective mystery, and we're setting ourselves up for the new moon that's gonna kind of free us or liberate us. It's gonna kind of break. It's gonna be like a moment of breakthrough for a lot of us. So what I want, okay, this is down what I'm getting. Okay, this is down what I'm getting. We have the new moon Wednesday night if you're on the West Coast. Um, Thursday morning if you're on the East Coast. But the moon's going to be in Scorpio today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, going up into the new moon that's at the last degrees. So, this is the down that I'm getting. The new moon or the moon in Scorpio of the next 3 days is going to show us, is going to reveal to us whatever triggers, whatever fears, whatever traumas, whatever BS comes up emotionally over the next two days. The new moon is the release point. It's like the moon in Scorpio is going to show you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This is what you got to release for the new moon. This is where you got to shift it in a new direction for the new moon. This is where you got to set intentions and go in a new direction. This is where you got to rebel. This is where you got to emancipate yourself. This is where you got to align yourself. This is where you need dramatic change. Okay? And if we're paying attention today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, we'll know what the proper course of action is, what the proper thing to do is for the new moon come Wednesday night, come Thursday morning. Okay? Because this new moon, it wants to shift us in a new direction. It wants to get us to pivot. It wants to evolve us. It wants to free us in some type of way. It wants to align us with something authentic or something truthful, right? But the other thing that we got to be keep in mind, Jupiter, the amount of retrograde energy that's influencing the new moon, right? The new moon conjunct Mercury retrograde. The new moon trine Saturn Neptune retrograde. The new moon trine Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter, Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, all in a ground-water trine, and all of them being what? Retrograde. So this tells us that there's something from the past coming back that we got to reckon with, that we got to reason with, that we got to deal with, that we got to confront before we can progress, before we can move forward, before we can break free, before we can come into alignment, which is what the new moon wants us to do. So I really want you guys to take notice. What emotions are coming back from the past? What people are coming back from the past? What karmic narratives, what karmic storylines, what memories from the past are coming back? You know, the mother and the father stuff, what family trauma stuff is coming up for you over the next 3 days or comes up for you over the next 3 days. Because what I'm kind of getting is like, I'm getting, the planets want to show that all this retrograde energy wants to reveal to us or show us what is holding us back that is dead weight in our life. What is dead weight in your life? What emotional BS is dead weight? What, partnerships, friendships, connections are dead weight? What maybe even goals or dreams are dead weight? Because you don't want those things anymore. You don't align with those things anymore, right? What kind of narratives or stories that you tell yourself are just dead weight? You have a story or a narrative in your head. Men are always mean to me. Men are not trustworthy. Men always abuse me. You keep telling yourself that story. You keep experiencing relationships like that. Well, maybe it's time to free yourself from this story that you have around men are not trustworthy. Men are not safe. Men always cheat on me. Men always betray me. Because guess what? When you continue to tell yourself that story, when you are emotionally invested in that story, then guess what? That story becomes your truth. It becomes your lived experience, and you keep ending up or attracting or falling in love with people that are going to reinforce that narrative and that story that you tell yourself. Because that's what you're looking for, and that's what you're coming to expect. So whose fault is it? Right? If you experience 4 relationships in a row and you get cheated on in all 4 of those relationships, when are you going to learn that it's you that's recreating this pattern? That it's you that's falling in love with people that cheat on you. Because that is your story, that's your expectation, that's what you are looking to you're waiting for that, right? So many people, they sit in a relationship, if they have a narrative around cheating, they literally sit in a relationship and they're just looking at they're looking at the person waiting for them to cheat on them. Like, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting. I know you're gonna cheat on me one day. I know you're gonna cheat on me. And then what they also start doing, this is so crazy, they start doing behaviors that push the person away to push them to cheat. They start being mean to them, they start neglecting them, they start, like putting up boundaries, putting up walls, they start being inapproachable, right? We actually start to subconsciously do things to create the narrative, to create this story, right? So we'll turn someone who wasn't even a cheater into a cheater because we start pushing them away. We start neglecting them. We start attacking them. We start accusing them of cheating, even though they're not cheating. And we push them into that narrative so that they can go ahead and fulfill our story that we're telling ourselves. Because we expect that. We want that. So maybe this new moon, maybe the moon in Scorpio the next 3 days, is inviting you to see how you are a perpetrator in your own wounded narratives. You are a perpetrator in your own wounded story. How are you actually catering and fostering and harboring your own trauma? And how do you continue to feed it? How do you continue to feed your trauma, right? Trauma is something that's very hungry. Trauma is something that is hungry. I don't know where that came from, but I just need to speak on that real quick because I feel like trauma, we are magnetized to trauma. like we I don't know. And it kind of brings me to the sign of Scorpio and this idea that Scorpio likes to hurt itself or likes painful experiences. It's like, I gotta stab myself to know I'm alive. It's like that energy. It's like, I gotta, I gotta hurt myself. I gotta experience pain just to know that I know I gotta bleed. There's like something like very melancholic, something very like I don't know, there's something there. I don't know, there's something about that. And it's like, wait a minute, what are we doing? What are we doing? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Why are we willingly, openly recreating stories of trauma just to feel alive? Like, what are we doing? So I think this new moon is really giving us an opportunity to kind of shift that direction. But what I will say, this is what I want to say. The moon in Scorpio the next 3 days. Yeah, it's like a little sadist. It's like masochistic. It's like there is a masochistic quality to Mars people. There is a masochistic quality to Scorpio and Aries. Mars is a little bit of a masochist, is one of the things I've noticed. I've actually done readings for people that have Mars in the 12th house or Mars in the rising, where I got a download around them cutting when they were young. I was like, oh, I'm seeing you cutting yourself, or I'm seeing very deep, dark, suicidal thoughts. And yeah, I was on point with that. They were like, yep, that was something that I experienced growing up. That was something that I did. Those were thoughts that I had. And it'll be Mars in Mars's placement in someone's chart that'll give me that signature. But Mars energy can be very masochistic and very self-destructive and very much in order for me to feel alive, I need to feel pain. And we want to move away from that. We want to be trauma informed, but we don't want to live in a way that's trauma based. And let me explain. When we live from our trauma, we react and we exist and we engage in relationships based on it. When we live through our trauma, right? And what happens is when we are living through our trauma, we recreate the traumatic scenarios that we've already experienced, and we continue to, and we feed the trauma narrative by replicating the traumatic experiences that we've already had. This is when we're living through our trauma, right? This is not, but being trauma informed, when you are informed about your trauma, what that does is that empowers you to be able to stop replicating the traumatic narrative and to shift the energetic direction and to go and to do something different, to where instead of living through your trauma, you're trauma informed, you're existing in a trauma informed way where you're not recreating or replicating it. You're not just doing the same things, okay, and hurting yourself in the same ways, or even giving yourself permission to have experiences that are just replicating things that you've already gone through before. you know and it's fascinating to me how many people are blind to how they recreate traumatic narratives in their own story, in their own life, right? And let me explain. For instance, and it's so prevalent with relationships and love. It is like so prevalent with relationships and love. This is one of the things I've noticed. If someone has abandonment issues with a parent, then what they'll do if they're not aware of those abandonment issues, or if they haven't really worked through them in an emotional level, if they haven't become informed about their trauma around abandonment, they will literally connect to people that are kind of like anxious avoidant and that will abandon them and that are going to abandon them. And what they'll also do to avoid the situation, they'll actually perpetuate the abandonment by kind of pushing the other person away, by breaking up with the person ahead of time, by being very hot and cold, where they kind of push the other person to abandon them, to recreate the narrative of abandonment that they have with their own father. So they end up partnering with people that will either willingly abandon them, or they end up doing behaviors in the relationship to push the other person to abandon them. so that they can go ahead and recreate their abandonment scenario, and they can go ahead and give more story, give more narrative, feed the trauma of abandonment, right? And people that do this is just one example. There's so many ways that we do this. They are blind to this. They're blind to how they do this. They don't see how they do this because the first step to blocking some kind of pattern of recreating trauma, the first step to healing that and to like preventing that and not doing that is being aware. If you are not aware of your pattern, if you cannot see it, you're not going to be able to heal it. You're not going to be able to break it. You're going to continue to live through it and continue to recreate it. Awareness is the first step, right? So I think this new moon being conjunct Mercury retrograde, right? Aspecting Saturn retrograde, Neptune retrograde, Jupiter retrograde. It's trying to reveal patterns, habits, behaviors. It's trying to get us to shift or change something about our day to day. It's a new moon conjunct Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. So there's something about the Mercury retrograde. There's something about we got to do things differently with this new moon. This new moon is opening up is presenting us an opportunity to do something different about. It's like presenting us an opportunity to do something different about the way we've been living and the way we've been communicating that the patterns, the habits, and the behaviors, right? And also another thing that I got, um, another download I got is um, the new moon this week, the moon in Scorpio the next few days is making the unseen, the unknown, the unaware. It's bringing it to the light. So it's making the unseen seen. It's making the unknown known. It's making the things that we're not aware of aware, that we're becoming aware of them. So there's something about this moon in Scorpio, this new moon coming up, where it's like the Mercury conjunction. It's like there's information being brought up in our life around things that we haven't been seeing, that we haven't been able to see, that have been kind of underneath the surface. There's unknown, unseen things that are becoming known and seen. There's things that we've been unaware of that are coming into our awareness, okay, during this new moon cycle. And we gotta pay attention because I feel like if there's questions that we have where there's mystery surrounding the question or the topic of the question, or there's like some kind of hidden, unseen element, it's very possible, it's very likely that, this new moon cycle coming up and this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio that we're going to start feeling this week as Mercury goes back into Scorpio tomorrow, this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, this portion of Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is like bringing things that are into our awareness, breeding things that are hidden, that are unknown or unseen into our awareness. And we got to pay attention. Okay. We got to pay attention. But we can also set the intention for clarity. So if we want clarity around something, we can ask this new moon to bring us information. We can ask Mercury. This is a beautiful new moon to petition Mercury with, and to be like, Mercury, bring me clarity, bring me information, bring me an answer, bring me something that'll give me clarity, give me truth, give me confirmation. This is a beautiful new moon to work with Mercury and to ask Mercury for a present or for a gift or for information, okay? Because it's a new moon literally on Mercury, conjunct Mercury, which is something that we don't get too often. It's pretty rare that we get a new moon, a new moon in conjunction with the Mercury Cazimi. It's a very rare thing, not very common. So someone said, how can people discern the two if they are perpetually doing it or are those people actually doing them wrong? See, that's the thing. This is where, the phrase know thyself comes in. Because sometimes you're going to be pulled into a certain narrative or story that someone else is trying to live, right? So let's say it's not you. Let's say you have a partner or you have a friend or you have someone in your life that has a trauma or a wound around abandonment. Okay. And let's say you're trying to be with this person, you're trying to develop closeness and intimacy with this person, but they keep being hot and cold. They keep pushing you away. They keep being avoidant. You guys get close, you get close, and all of a sudden they disappear and they're not present. Well, that's because you know, in some form or fashion, they haven't worked through their abandonment wound and could be doing these inconsistent behaviors with you because they're trying to get you to abandon them. Does that make sense? So, because they're waiting for that. This is why they're inconsistent. This is why they're hot and cold. This is why they can't fully commit. This is why they're not, they don't feel stable or safe. This is why they're not dependable or reliable. This is why they're inconsistent. It's because they're waiting for you to abandon them. So that's why they're pushing you away. You see what I'm saying? So if let's say you meet someone and they tell you, oh, yeah, my dad abandoned my family when I was 5. My mom was a single mother, and my mom had to raise all 3 of us, right? And let's say it's a woman. My dad abandoned us, and I was the oldest daughter, and my mom was a single mother, and I had to help my mom raise my siblings because my dad abandoned us. So that she has a wound around abandonment with the father. You know that. That's something that you have, right? You have that piece of information. So now you got to see, how does this show up in love and expectation, in partnership? Because let's say you're trying to partner with someone let's say you're a man trying to partner with a woman whose father abandoned them, right? Well, what does she learn? Through her mother and through her experience, she had to learn to be independent and self-reliant. She possibly could have cultivated a narrative or story of, men are not safe or reliable or dependable, or men are not consistent. So I got to do everything myself. I got to have my own career. I got to have my own money. I got to be fully independent. And because of that abandonment wound that she has, she may have a fear of actually allowing a man to help her, support her, or show up for her, because her narrative and her story is at any moment in time, what he's giving me and how he's showing up for me, he could just be gone. He could just abandon me, just like my daddy did when I was 5. So, and then it's so crazy because then it's men that it's like, and then, and right, you're trying to give her, you're trying to support her, you're trying to do more for her, you're trying to compensate for her own abandonment wound, but she feels threatened by that. Oh, you're trying to take away my independence, you're trying to take away my sovereignty, you're trying to get me in a space of codependency, you're overstepping my boundaries, and you're like, baby, I'm just trying to love you the way your daddy didn't love you. But that's not what she's getting. That's not her experience. Her experience is, no, you're overstepping my boundaries. You're overgiving. You're trying to maybe manipulate me. Her trauma is going to start to, if she hasn't worked through it, her trauma is going to start to show up, right? These are very complex things that we deal with. And a lot of times we're just looking at things at the surface level. Oh, well, she's just a very strong, independent woman, and blah, 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 blah. And she doesn't need me. And she's going to tell you, oh, I don't need you. And you're taking it all personal. But that her saying that is coming from a place of, my dad was never there for me. I had to show up for me and my mom and my siblings. And I had to be strong and independent and be the eldest daughter, right? That's where she's speaking from. But you're not hearing that. You're hearing, oh, well, you don't need me, so I guess, you want to be a strong, independent woman and blah, 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 blah. You're not really taking into consideration her perspective, her experience, her abandonment wound, right? It's like things are much more complex and much deeper than we think they are. And that's what Scorpio teaches us. We all have a narrative or a story, but our narrative and our story could be that we are coming up with can be so surface level. It could be so based on just what we're experiencing, but we're not understanding. And this is where understanding comes in. This is where you got to really ask the questions. You got to be willing to be vulnerable and go deep, because if you can do that with others in general, right, you can get to core wounded things and you can start to kind of shift certain behavioral patterns in relationships. Does that make sense? And you can create very meaningful, powerful change in your relationships where you're not going to recreate the same narratives, the same stories that you experienced growing up, or you're not even going to experience relationships in a way that where the traumas, the trauma narrative is the overarching story and it's the overarching theme. Because what happened? Because we end up getting so wounded and so hurt when we recreate these trauma narratives in our relationships. Not just romantic, but this can also be with friends. It's so interesting because this is like also it shows up a lot with friendships, right? Like for me, I'm going to speak from my own experience. I have a Capricorn moon in the 11th house, right? So I grew up with a mom that was very powerful, very dominant. My mom is like, she wears the pants in the house and she's the strong one. She's the one that she's the rule maker. She's the one that she's the higher authority, right? So, in my lived experience, I've had female friends. I tend to attract female friends that are also very bossy and very domineering. Because I have the moon in Capricorn and 11,000 friends, right? So my mom is my best friend. Me and her are really close, but she's very bossy. But I also attract friends that are also very dominant and very strong. So it's so funny because one of the things I've noticed, I had to notice this in my 20s, is I end up kind of falling into this like parent-child dynamic with my female friends sometimes. Where, they're bossing me around and they're telling me what to do and they're all strong and powerful. And I'm just like, yes, ma'am. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay. And I had to like stop that. I was like, why am I, what? I'm like, how do I keep ending up with these bossy, controlling women friends? I'm like, what is going on here? And I had to see astrology helped me see the narrative and the story. Oh, this is just the manifestation of the relationship with my mother, right? And I don't want to recreate that. I don't want to have, these. I love having strong female bossy friends, but not when it's coming at my expense. Not when I'm like when it's like I just feel all weak and powerless in these friendships. Like I don't want that for me. You know what I mean? And so it can show up in a lot of different ways. It can show up in a lot of different ways. Awareness is empowerment, though, because once you kind of know the narrative of the story, this can also show up in work dynamic with work dynamics. This can show up with the boss. This can show up with a coworker. This can show up with your child. Some of these narratives, some of these stories, right? You got to ask yourself: Do I want to continue living out these narratives and these stories? Do I want to recreate these narratives and these stories that are really traumatic, right? Or I want something different for myself, right? Do I want something different for myself? So I just want to share this with you guys because, we cannot heal what we cannot see. We cannot heal what we cannot see. And I think this new moon is giving us a beautiful opportunity to bring certain things into our awareness that we haven't been seeing or been paying attention to. Okay. All right. So let's keep going with the week ahead astrology. How are we 2 hours in? How is it 11:46? What have I been talking about? I feel like I've been talking about everything but the planets. All right, let's keep going. So Moon square Pluto. I was talking about that later on today. So tomorrow on Tuesday, November 18th, we actually have a Moon Venus conjunction, and we have the Moon Venus conjunct the North Node. One of the things that's really interesting that's happening right now is we have Venus trine the nodes, or Venus trine the North Node and Venus sextile the South Node. So there's a lot of kind of karmic fated things with relationships and partnerships that are happening right now. Whether it be reconciliation, healing from the past, or coming back together, Mercury's retrograde, or even like closure, getting clarity. There's a lot of stuff right now that are kind of karmic and fated that's happening in the realm of relationships and partnerships and things like this because of the Venus trine the North Node. And so tomorrow we have Moon Venus together, which actually feels really, really good. Tomorrow can be a really good day for partnerships and for connections. And, we could just indulge, we can, socialize tomorrow with the Moon Venus together. We can, want to hang out with someone or call someone that we haven't talked to. Mercury's also at 0 degrees Sag tomorrow. So Mercury, he's about to go back into Scorpio. So we're going to feel a huge energetic shift tomorrow evening going into Wednesday morning as Mercury re-enters the sign of Scorpio and goes back to 29 degrees. These are, the 1, 29 degrees. These are critical degrees. These are very intense degrees. These are degrees, the degrees that straddle between the signs, right? That are between the signs. They bring like shock. They bring, Uranus is also opposing Mercury and and Uranus. So when Mercury goes into Scorpio, Uranus is at 29. So when Mercury goes into Scorpio, Mercury and Uranus are in exact opposition to each other. So it feels like it looks like the Mercury retrograde and the Mercury at 0 degrees Sag tomorrow and going to 29. There's like shocking information. There's like shocking choices and decisions. Also, another thing, if you feel compelled to make a choice or a decision that goes against the status quo, that goes against your own, you know, expectations of yourself, or you've been considering making a choice or a decision, but you're like, oh, I don't know, like, this is just really, really radically different, or this is going to put me in a new timeline, or this is just going to put me in a new direction, or this is really going to cause a little bit of destruction, making, expressing this thing, saying this thing, having this conversation with this person, making this choice or decision is going to create some kind of like big tumultuous change, or it's going to have a domino effect, or everything just causes a house of cards to fall or something. That energy is going to be in the air for the new moon, and it's going to be in the air tomorrow going into Wednesday, and it's going to just be in the new moon, and it's just going to be around for the new moon because Mercury, right, is retrograding back into the last 29 degrees of Scorpio on Wednesday, and it's going to be directly opposite Uranus at 29. And that 29th degree is a very, very karmic, very, very, you know, it's a very intense degree, and I'm just thinking of Mercury opposite Uranus, and it's like, it's very erratic, sudden choices and decisions. Someone said they're feeling confused right now. If you're feeling confusion right now, just hold on and just wait. Clarity is not a Mercury retrograde thing, right? Mercury is retrograde. So I think if we want clarity, we're gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to give it some time. You know what I mean? Or even you go quiet. So another thing that I got is clarity. Oh, this is so interesting. Oh, I love this. Space and detachment create clarity. Ooh, space, detachment, and silence. Space, detachment, and silence give you clarity right now. So, if you want to be clear about something, you have to move away from it, create some space from it, and don't say anything to it. And don't think about it. Like, you want to move away from it because per clarity is going to come from space and from silence and from detachment, because what it that does is it gives you perspective so you can see the full picture. It's like this: if you're inside a snow globe, you're not going to be able to see what the real issue or what the problem is, because you're in the mess, you're in the fog of the snow, you're in the storm of the snow globe, right? In order for you to get clarity around something, you have to remove yourself from the situation. You have to get outside of the snow globe so you can see the thing from all angles. You'd be like, okay, well, let me see what's going on here, right? So what the download I just got is clarity comes from detachment, silence, and space. Okay? That's where you get clarity. And that's also where you're going to be able to kind of like really understand how that thing has been impacting you energetically, because you know, when we start to engage with things, and we go into a silent energetic contract with that thing. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a job, it could be a behavior, a habit, it could be a passion, it could be a person, a relationship. When we start to engage with that thing, we are building an energetic relationship with it, and we're starting to exchange energy with it. Okay. And through that energetic exchange, okay, what happens is we're either going to feel good, it's going to enhance us, it's going to reinforce things, it's going to give us more like positive energy, or it's going to give us negative energy, confusion. Sometimes it could be a mix of both, right? But typically there's one more dominant energy that that thing is giving us. And so if it's giving us, anxiety, paranoia, nervousness, confusion, a lack of clarity, and uncertainty, if it's triggering fear, if it's triggering, right? That's our body telling us, no, this is not good for us. This is not, there's something off. There's something we got to figure out about this. There's some kind of clarity that we need to get. There's something off, right? We got to figure it out, right? But You'll know if that thing is causing your anxiety, your stress, your pain, or whatever, your confusion, once you detach from it. Because once you detach from it, and then let's say you start to feel more peaceful, you start to feel more grounded, you start to feel more, wow, I could breathe. Wow, I'm feeling good again. Well, then you realize, wait a minute, it was that thing that was causing it in some type of way, right? Quite possibly. But the only way you're going to know that is by kind of taking space from it to see how it's been impacting you energetically, right? Whatever we interact with, we go into energetic contract with. We are actively engaging in energetic exchange, whether you realize it or not, doesn't matter. We are energetic beings. And we love to believe that we are so strong and our energy is so grounded, but actually no, we are very sensitive. We're majority water, okay? Our bodies are majority water. We're very energetically sensitive to the environments, to the experiences, to the thoughts, to the emotions, to the interactions with others, to the people around us. We're very, very energetically sensitive. And a lot of times we don't really understand just how profoundly, just how deeply something is impacting us energetically until we remove ourselves from it and we're like, wow, holy shit, my acne is going away, I'm losing weight, my sleep is better, I'm like, I could breathe again. All of a sudden, I'm not doing the destructive behaviors. I'm feeling more calm and more grounded, and I'm feeling more healthy. And all I had to do was remove myself from that person or remove myself from that thing, right? So, because you'll really know the impact that something has on you when you move away from it, you know? And if you cannot move away from something because it gives you stress and anxiety and paranoia, then that's already telling you it's not good for you and that you've grown attached in some type of way. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The wrong person. Look what Dela said. The wrong person can affect your finances. Yes. If you are with the wrong person, if you're connected to the wrong people, the wrong energies, the wrong environments, okay, your health is going to get all fucked up. Your money is going to get fucked up. Your mental health is going to get fucked up. Your skin is going to be all crazy. Your hair is going to, all like, it has this, people have this effect where they just start to kind of, I want to say they don't start. It's like they kind of like people can be a little poisonous, and sometimes it's not their fault. It's not their intention. It's just the way that they're living, the way that they're existing, or just a karmic thing between you two. You know what I mean? Also, you'll notice this when um when you are connected to people that are connected to your south node. Okay, so if you connect to people that are, let's say you start, dating someone, and let's say you have the South Node in Capricorn, and they have a whole Capricorn stellium in your South Node, okay? They're activating your south node, and so they're going to start to deplete you, drain you, exhaust, possibly. Okay, it depends. It's a synastry and is a complex thing, and the whole chart would have to be looked at. But I'm just using this as an example, as a very isolated example. They're going to start to bring you towards your south node, which is exhaustion, deprivation of energy, lack energy, deception, confusion, past life karmic patterns. All of a sudden, you're, South Node in Capricorn, you're feeling like you have no power or authority with this person. All of a sudden, you're giving over control to this person. All of a sudden, your career starts to suffer. You're starting to get bone aches in the bones. Capricorn rules the bones. All of a sudden, your bones are aching, and all of a sudden, your money's going bad, and all right. That's a South Node thing, and that can be when someone is activating your South Node because the South Node is an energy that wastes away, that deprives, that takes. The energy, it's an energy that also it's something we want to move away from, right? But that person, usually the South Node and people that have synastry with our South Node, they're to teach us what? How to let go. They're to teach us how to detach. They're here to teach us how to surrender. Because that's what the South Node is about. The South Node is about enlightenment and the evolution of the soul through detachment, through surrender, through letting go. You know, Someone said my dad is in my South Node. Oh, baby, I don't know if your dad's good. Is your dad good for you? Do you have a good relationship with your dad? Because that definitely tells us it's a past life karmic thing. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It could also be about, spiritual development and, deep spiritual lessons. But, if my dad's son was on my South Node, I probably wouldn't be spending a lot of time and energy with him. I'd probably only, see him in doses. You know what I mean? I probably see him in doses. She said, now that I'm an adult, it's much better. Good, yeah. But yeah, like it, because they're always, you may feel with this person, right? No matter who it is, throwing yourself out, you may feel that whatever you have to give to them is never enough. Or you may feel like being connected with them comes at a price. It some comes at you. You end up taking losses. You end up suffering in some type of way, or just there's something that's always off. There's something that's always missing. There's something that you're never gonna get from them because that's what the South Node does. That's what the South Node energies are about. Someone said yes, and doses is good for us. Yeah. What if you and your spouse have the same south node, like Cap Cancer and stuff? Yeah, a lot of people have that. You guys are so people have the same nodes. They're on the same karmic narrative. You guys are both doing the same story, and you see this a lot. You see this a lot with spouses where they have the same nodes or opposite nodes, or like Kayla said, look at her daughter and her have opposite nodes. Yes, you see this a lot. I cannot tell you how often I see children with the same nodes as their parents or even children with the nodes squaring their parents' nodes. You know, if you have if you have the same nodes as your child, that means that your child was born during your eclipse cycle, during your eclipse energy, when you were going through the eclipses, right? So it's what's so interesting is when kids have the same nodes as us, a lot of times that period of our life, that period of the parent's life is when they were going through chaos. When they were going through they were going through a dramatic upheaval or dramatic change. There was something that was like there was like some karmic fated alignment that was happening in their life, in the parent's life when the kid was born. And that because you were going through your nodal return or your reverse nodal return when your child was born, right? So you were going through the eclipses, right? And so that kind of tells us that there's something karmic or fated about your relationship with your child when you have the same nodes. But when you guys have the same nodes or the reverse nodes, you guys are teaching each other about those signs, about the houses that the nodes occupy, and about the nodal axis of those signs, right? So it's a very cool thing. These are one of the things I show people when I do readings, especially when I do like generational readings. I do a lot of readings between parent and child, and I'll pull up a child's chart. I'll do an overlay with with mom and dad and the child to show what the karmic inheritance is. Right? I just did this. I just did one this past weekend that was really cool. I was showing my client how, even though I'm not supposed to be doing readings right now, but there's just like a few little scragglers, a few, there's a few readings I've had to do over the last couple of weeks because there were like reschedules and things like this. But anyways, um, I was showing my client how their child inherited these aspects from dad and inherited these aspects from mom. And it was so crazy. Like there was like exact aspects. Like Sun trine Saturn was one of them. She had Sun trine Saturn. Her daughter had Sun trine Saturn, right? The daughter and the dad had the same nodes. Had the same nodes. So it's like you'll see this kind of karmic inheritance. You'll see what I call the celestial DNA be replicated between the parent and the child. And it's really cool to see. And it's really cool to show people because, when I show people this, they're mind blown. They're like, whoa, that is so crazy to see. Because there's so much there's like this karmic footprint. There's like this generational, thing when it comes to astrology. It's really beautiful. It's really powerful. Okay, anyways, let's get back to what we are talking about. Okay. So the moon goes into Sag. So the moon is gonna be in Scorpio from Monday until Thursday morning, Wednesday night. We have the Moon Venus conjunction on Tuesday, which feels really, really good. What I was saying, the reason why we're talking about this is because the reason why we got here, I was talking about like karmic fated things with relationships because the Moon Venus are in a trine with the North Node tomorrow. And so that's where we're getting a lot of fated karmic things with love and partnerships. And, Mercury retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, Saturn retrograde, all in a grand trine with each other for the new moon. Of course, there's people spinning the block. Of course, there's people telling you, I miss you. And, I long for you. And I've been thinking about you since I was 9. And, I've always wanted to be with you. And, I'm so sorry for how I messed up 3 years ago. I'm a better person. I want to do right by you. I want to be better for you. I want to give you the baby. I wasn't sure. Just be careful about all that, okay? Be careful with that because Mercury's retrograde, all right? We got to see if they're here to stay once Mercury goes direct a few weeks from now, okay? You may come on strong, you can say all these things, you can say all the things, but we got to see the action. We got to see the follow-up. That's where it really counts. That's where it really matters, okay? So just be careful of that. Be mindful of that. And that's going to become like a thing Wednesday, Thursday. Because what's so interesting is, we have our new moon on Wednesday, which is a defining feature. And the moon moves forward and goes into Sagittarius on Thursday. So it's really interesting because Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Whenever I say that, whenever I say like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whenever I say that on the week ahead, I swear that song comes on, it comes in my brain every time. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Anybody like the oldies like me? I love me some oldies. Let me get back in here. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. So the moon in Sag, okay? The moon in Sag gets a little feisty, but you know what? It's so cool because the moon in Sag, it's interesting. It's coming out of the new moon. It's a waxing moon. It's a moon that's building, and the moon is being disposited by Jupiter, who's exalted, who's retrograde in Cancer, in this grand trine with the new moon and with Saturn. So it kind of feels like the moon in Sag Thursday, Friday is bringing some kind of expansion and growth, or it's pushing us in a new direction. We're feeling very excited about something new coming in. Like there's really like this, it's like there's like a breaking point. It feels like we're breaking away from the past, or we're moving towards the future. We really start to see maybe some new direction, or we start to see some new unfolding, or we even maybe start to take action towards something new in our life, Thursday, Friday specifically. Well, this is a few reasons. There's a few reasons why. It's because not only is the moon in Sag being disposited by Jupiter, who's exalted in this beautiful grand trine with the new moon and with Saturn, but the moon is also with Mars. So the moon in Sag, as the moon goes into Sag, the moon actually sits it's going to be co-present with Mars. So I'm looking at Thursday as the moon coming out of our new moon, as the moon is progressing right after the new moon in Scorpio, the moon goes into Sag because it's a late degree new moon, right? And so the moon goes into Sag, and it starts sitting with Mars. And Mars is the ruler of our new moon, right? Mars and Sag is the ruler of the new moon. And then we have the moon and Mars come into contact the day of the new moon, or the day after the new moon, for some of you, if you're on the West Coast, with Moon Mars together. So this kind of feels like Thursday, Friday, we're taking action, and we're moving towards, and we're asserting ourselves, and we're being brave and courageous with the intentions that we set for the new moon, or with how the new moon is pushing us forward in some kind of uncomfortable way, right? Kind of feels like, even if there's moments of, there's tower moments, there's moments of awakening, there's moments of chaos or destruction that we experience, or just moments of emancipation and freedom and alignment that we experience with the new moon opposite Uranus. The moon going into Sag and hitting Mars, Thursday, Friday is like, okay, like now it's time to move forward. Now it's time to really take action. Now it's really time to assert yourself. Now it's really time to, take this experience and then like do something with it, right? So I'm really excited about the moon in Sagittarius being co-present with Mars. What I will say though is people are going to be feeling very emotionally erratic, and people are going to be feeling very emotionally chaotic. There's going to be a little bit of a temperamental energy in the air, coming out of the new moon. Because when Moon Mars are together in Sagittarius, this is wild. This is feisty. This is, let's go on vacation. Let's travel. Let's have fun. Let's plan for something fun and exciting. Um, Yeah, like, and you also with the moon and Sag, you there could be people leaving for vacation. Oh yeah, it makes sense because we have Thanksgiving coming up. Oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Yeah, new moon trine Jupiter. We have thanks taking coming up. Um, so it makes sense because thanks taking is coming up when? It's like next it's the 27th, right? So it feels like people are traveling this weekend to go visit family, or people are like planning things with the family this weekend. I also do think that during this new moon cycle, there's going to be family members from the past or just people from the past. This could be like, it could go deep. This could go deep. This could be like, your best friend from third grade. Like, this can be like, oh, yeah, your high school sweetheart. Like, I feel like there's going to be people coming back from the past, 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 past. Like it feels like the Jupiter in Cancer, the Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. The Mercury retrograde, trining Jupiter, Saturn. I just feel like there's people coming back from the past, and it feels like the universe is digging real deep. It's going real deep into our past to kind of dig things up and bring people back from the past. Okay. But it also feels like we're seeing family members during this new moon cycle that we haven't seen in a very, very long time. So this can be, seeing a grandmother that you haven't seen in years. This could be an aunt or an uncle that, they've, been traveling or they've been in another country for many years and you haven't seen them. There's definitely something around like karmic exchanges, karmic family connections, or people that we need to like see because there's something important about that exchange. There's a conversation that you need to have, there's information that they need to give you, there's wisdom or guidance, there's closure. I don't know, I'm getting also closure. Like I feel like there's certain people coming back from the past where things have just been uncertain or there hasn't been closure in years, maybe it's just that we just ended things and it's just like, or things ended or there was like a dramatic experience or something, and it's just like been in limbo for years, it feels like, and now we're getting closure. Now we're getting some kind of completion. Now we're getting some kind of clarity, some kind of answer. Now we're getting some kind of truth. Now we're having some kind of conversation. That's what it feels like. Okay. This is going to be for the next 2 weeks. It's going to be all throughout the new moon cycle, but I'm really feeling it this weekend. I don't know. I was thinking about the moon in Sag, and I don't know. Oh, the moon's going to go into Capricorn. That's why. So the moon does go into Capricorn on, let's see, I believe on Saturday. Saturday and yeah, the moon does go into Capricorn 5 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday, which would be 8 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. The moon goes into Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, who's retrograde in Cancer, who's trining Mercury, who's trining Jupiter in Cancer. So the moon going through Sag and Capricorn, coming out of our new moon, is responding to the Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury grand trine. And Venus is also about to join in on this trine. So Venus is by Saturday, November 22nd. Venus is at 20 degrees. She's about to be a part of this. And also, what do we start this week on Saturday, the 22nd? We start Sag season. So we're entering the Christmas season and we are entering Sag season. And this Sag season is coming off the back of this new moon in Scorpio, but it feels like there's a lot of travel, a lot of expansion, a lot of growth. I don't know why I was seeing, like the Mars and Sagittarius is also kind of giving me people traveling to places this holiday season that they've never traveled to before, or going someplace for the first time. So like this is like new experiences with the Mars and Sag on combination with the Sun. What I will say though, with the Sun and Mars and Sagittarius together, people are really choosing themselves. This upcoming sad season, people are feeling more independent. They're feeling more prepared to adventure and travel. They're feeling more prepared to embark or some kind of long distance journey type of thing. And this could be your own a spiritual journey. This can be you want to move really, really far. This can be, I want to explore a new career field. I want to explore new types of work. I want to explore new types of spirituality, new types of faith, new types of religion. I don't know why, but this I'm kind of getting this Sag season that starts on Saturday. There's something around being pushed or being guided or being, called towards expansion and growth in like a new way, you know? There's a new type of work that we want to do. There's somewhere new that we want to live. There's like new people that we want to connect to. There's a new community out there for us. There's new friendships. There's this energy of like expanding and reaching and growing towards like something new. Okay. Also traveling somewhere that we've never been before. Okay. Is what I'm getting with this upcoming Sag season. So the sun does ingress into Sagittarius um on Saturday, but you know the sun is separating from Uranus, though. I'm just thinking about sun opposite Uranus on Friday. We have this new moon that's opposite Uranus, but we have a sun Uranus opposition on Friday. And the sun opposite Uranus, the sun at the last degrees of Scorpio, trine Neptune. I don't know. This feels like something really dramatic with the government and with leaders and with like authority figures and with bosses. And with like presidents and CEOs. I really do think that this new moon cycle, I think there's going to be more layoffs. I think there's going to be some really shocking revelations or decisions that leaders make or that bosses, authority figures make, or even that big corporations or big businesses make with this new moon. I'm just looking at Mercury opposite Uranus and the sun opposite Uranus, and both of these planets being planets that are, the sun is a planet of authority, and the sun is a planet of CEOs and, of leaders, and Mercury is a planet of workers and jobs and employees and, our day-to-day routines and stuff. And I'm just seeing this sun Mercury opposite Uranus, and it's just giving mass layoffs. It's giving mass endings. It's giving a sudden, you know, announcement of something that is very dramatic or very intense or very like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, and we may even see this with leadership in general. So you may have bosses or leaders that reveal or announce things that are kind of shocking or unexpected in some type of way. It doesn't have to be bad, it could be good. Um, but I think we're going to see this with leaders and with also like presidents and politicians and stuff like that as well. I think we're going to see sudden upheavals or sudden shocking things. And also, scandals, more scandals. Oh my God, more information coming out around scandal. We have Lilith and Mercury in a conjunction. Mercury at 26, Lilith at 26. On Friday, on Thursday, Mercury's at 27. Lilith's at 26. We have Mercury retrograding back into Lilith. It's just giving more scandals, more gossip, more BS, more what the fuck is going on? Like who's a pedophile? Who's a rapist? Who's a this? Who's a that? Like, we're getting more of that. We're getting more of that. More of that energy coming to the surface. Someone said, did I hear about the massive layoffs with Verizon? Yeah. I've been trying to like, oh man, it's just been, oh my God, you guys. It's like it's just so intense. It's a little overwhelming actually, the amount of layoffs. There's like so many big telecommunication companies, media companies, even like the axis of Taurus and Scorpio. I'm thinking about like, the beauty industry, the fashion industry, the health industry. I'm thinking about supermarkets and stores. I'm thinking about, banks and stuff. Scorpio banks, people that manage resources of money, insurance companies, tourists, restaurants, food places, supermarkets, beauty places, laying people off. Those jobs disappearing in some type of way, with the Mercury Uranus opposition. But just watch for announcements this weekend. Very shocking announcements from all directions. And this just doesn't have to be about work. This could also be in our own individual life. All of a sudden we find out some shocking piece of information from a spouse or from a parent and they tell us something. We're like, what? I don't know why the download I was getting is someone telling someone that they're actually really broke and they have no money. Even though we thought that they were like rich or wealthy, we thought that they were doing okay, or that we thought that they, had money or had wealth. there's like an announcement coming of like, I don't know, this is just like, this could be very particular for somebody, but oh, actually, I'm in debt by like, a lot of money, and actually I'm broke and I have no money. And we're like, what? How? Where? You've been living this lifestyle. You've been acting like everything's okay. And wait, you're broke? What? When? How? When did that happen? Like, I feel like it's gonna be those type of announcements or those that like, wait a minute, what? You actually are in debt by like X amount of money. Like, I'm kind of, and this could also be like companies telling this to people. Like, we have no money left, Like, we've been working and everything, we've been thinking everything is okay. And all of a sudden, we wake up one day and we go to work and the boss is like, you know what, y'all? We're broke. The company's broke. We ain't got no money. So we gotta lay everybody off. We gotta close down. We gotta file for bankruptcy, something like this. I'm getting this. I'm seeing the Mercury in Scorpio opposite Uranus and Taurus. I don't know why. This is giving me bankruptcy. This is giving me filing for bankruptcy. Or this is giving me charged off credit cards. This is giving me fuck it. You know what? I can't pay this. I don't have no income. We're gonna give it to God. Okay. We're gonna give it to God. Okay. If listen, Jesus, I need you to pay these bills because I can't do it no more. I can't do it. You know? I'm kind of giving that. I don't know, it's giving filing for bankruptcy. So yeah, I just got that download. So all right. So yeah, Moon in Sagittarius, starting Thursday, Friday. Moon conjoined Mars Thursday. We love that. It's very exciting, very passionate. But we can be feeling a little emotionally volatile, so we just want to be mindful of that. So then the moon goes into Capricorn on Saturday. But as the moon, okay, so this is the thing, okay? This is the thing. Friday, Saturday. Friday, actually Thursday. Actually Thursday. Yeah, it's mostly. Oh, it's like Thursday evening, Friday going to Saturday. Okay. So this is what happens. Okay. On Thursday, when the moon hits Mars, like around 5, 6 p.m. Thursday, the moon is going to start to square all the Pisces stuff in the nodes. So the moon, as it's in the middle degrees of Sag, separating from Mars, Mars is going to be at 12 degrees of Sag on Thursday. I'm looking at the moon at 8 degrees Sag. The moon's at 10 degrees Sag Thursday night. And then actually it's going to be Friday. So it's actually more like Thursday evening, but Friday. The moon hits Mars. And then the moon is going to start squaring the North Node in Pisces on Friday. So the moon squares the North Node in Pisces. We have the moon square the North Node. So this kind of tells us that there is definitely an element of fate or karma or destiny with things with things this weekend. And there's certain things that may be out of our control. But it's the moon in Sag with the North Node in Pisces, and this is all dispositing to Jupiter in Cancer. So this is also giving me good karmic movement or good karmic outcomes. This seems opportunistic. This seems like there's faded karmic opportunities or people that we're connecting to or whatever that are part of a new structure, a new timeline, a new direction, something positive, something expansive, something that wants to grow. Something, and this could also be, this could come through somebody. So this can be a friend, a stranger. This can be, an old boss. This can be somebody, a family member, somebody that's like, here, I want to give you this thing. I want to open up this door for you. I want to present you with this opportunity. Okay. And I think we need to pay attention to this, especially on Friday when the moon squared the North Node. Okay. Because then as we progress into Saturday, as we get into like Friday evening, Saturday, the moon is going to square Saturn and Neptune, who are retrograde. And that's when things get a little confusing. That's when things get a little heavy or a little sad. I'm also thinking of the moon trine Chiron in Aries as the moon is squaring Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. And it's looking like, yeah, it's like Friday evening going into, yeah, Friday evening. The moon's at 22, square Saturn at 25, moving into a square with um Neptune at 29, and also the moon's trining Chiron. So it seems like Friday night, Saturday morning, there's certain things that we have to come up that are coming up around limitation, around rejection, around things that are hard. There may also be obligations or responsibilities that we have to adhere to this upcoming weekend. This could also be you thought you were gonna do this and do that, and you had a busy weekend planned or whatever, but all of a sudden you get sick or you get ill, or all of a sudden there's something else that redirects you. Okay, so I just want you to be very mindful of plans falling through possibly on Saturday. This is also the day when the sun goes into Sagittarius and we enter a new energy with the sun. So the sun's going to be in Sag. So this could also be, if you are traveling this upcoming weekend, be mindful of delayed travel plans or canceled travel plans, or even um, there's been like a shortage of air traffic controllers. Have you guys heard about this? Have you guys been reading about this? There's been like a shortage of like air traffic controllers. So what's been happening is there's been like delayed flights where they've been pushing it like to the next day. There's been like flights that are being pushed to like the next day. So what I will say, it's a Mercury retrograde, okay? The moon's gonna be in Sag squaring Saturn on Saturday. And Neptune. And I just would say that, take a look at your travel plans. Call the airline. Make sure you have your app ready, and you're just monitoring what's happening with, like, any kind of travel plans or people that are a part of your travel plans, because there could be some unexpected delays or setbacks or something like this. Um, we can also be feeling very just kind of like heavy, or we could just be feeling very burdened on Saturday, okay, with the moon squaring Saturn. So, and there could also be a little bit of confusion and stuff. What I will say also, because there's just so much, moon and Sag, sun and Sag, Mars and Sag, North Node, Saturn and Pisces, there's a lot of Jupiter energy in the air this weekend. Be mindful of overindulging, of doing too much of things, of asking too much of things, of taking too much of things, of imbibing too much of things. Okay, just be very mindful of a little bit of, there's this energy of like excess, the tension between excess and like moderation, and like, it's like they're either doing too much or we're doing not enough. We've got to find that sweet spot this weekend with the moon square Saturn. Okay, and the moon being in a Jupiter ruled sign, and Jupiter kind of being very prominent right now. Jupiter is kind of in a very strong position right now. He just started retrograding, so there's going to be a lot of shifts energetically. It's real interesting that we had Jupiter and Mercury started retrograding at the same time. This tells us that there's going to be a lot of mutable signs kind of going back to things, or having to revisit things, or having to revise things, or review things. Jupiter and Mercury are the rulers of the mutable signs. Jupiter rules Pisces and Sag, Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo, right? So the mutable signs, mutable energy, with Jupiter and Mercury retrograding around the same time, they're going backwards. The mutable signs are having to reflect on things, they're having to revisit things, revise things, they're having to go back on things, review things, okay? Especially the mutable signs. Okay. So, all right. Then, yeah, so Saturday, the moon goes into Capricorn, and as the moon goes into Capricorn, which is going to be around 6 p.m. Saturday. The moon separates from the square with Neptune and Saturn. And the moon, let's see if it's going to make any aspects. Do we have anything at the early degrees of a cardinal? No, we don't. The moon and the sun are in aversion to each other. So we don't, the moon is not really aspecting anything. I think the moon is going to be void. Yeah, the moon's going to be void. So on Sunday, the moon is void, of course. The moon is not making any aspects to anything. Um, Sunday morning, the moon is just floating. The moon doesn't make another aspect to a planet or anything until Monday. We have a void moon for quite a few hours on Sunday. The moon is void in Capricorn. So the moon is not going to aspect anything until Monday. We have a void moon all Sunday, which is very, very interesting. When the moon is void, the moon is not absorbing any energy or reflecting any energy. The moon is like our energetic satellite, right? The moon is our celestial satellite. So what the moon does, the moon gathers energy and it gathers energy and it reflects energy of the planets down to Earth. So that's what it does. The moon's job, it's the gatherer, right? If we think about hunter-gatherer society, right? Hunter Mars, gatherer moon, right? The moon gathers energy. It's like a bowl. If you, I want you guys to think about the moon is like a bowl of water, okay? And what it does is it collects energy of the planets as it's going around Earth. And then what it does, once it collects it, it projects the energy onto Earth. That's what the moon does, right? But when the moon is void, when the moon is not aspecting anything, the moon is not reflecting or mirroring anything. The moon is, she's kind of like alone. She's like doing her own thing. And there's a little bit of an energetic disconnect that we feel with the cosmos, that we feel with the planets. Because the moon is the bridge between the planets and Earth, right? The moon is, she's the energetic bridge. She's the energetic satellite that gathers energy and brings it down to Earth. So when the moon is void, we're not having any energy being projected on Earth, whereas there's no other planetary energies that are impacting us. So we kind of feel a little bit of a disconnect. You feel a little bit of emotional disconnect. We feel an energetic disconnect. This doesn't mean things don't happen. This just kind of it's like we feel awkward. We feel like it's like a disconnect. It's like we're celestially disconnected. We don't feel the presence of the divine or spirit possible. We don't feel the presence of the planets. We don't feel, and then also the moon is in detriment in Capricorn. The moon is also in a weak place in Capricorn. So, we might feel very bored. We might feel a little sad, a little depressed, a little disconnected. We might just feel a lack of energy, okay? The moon doesn't make an aspect to planets. Um, well, I guess the moon is going to aspect the north node, and somewhat actually consider in Vedic astrology they consider the north node a planet. Rahu is a planet, and Ketu are considered planets in Vedic astrology. So, the moon is going to aspect the north node by a sextile around 11 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday, 10 p.m., 11 p.m. But, according to Western astrology, the nodes are not considered planets. So the moon's going to be void. The moon doesn't hit an aspect to a planet until it gets to like 22 degrees. Yeah, until Monday morning, 11 a.m. Monday morning. The moon gets to 22 and it finally aspects Venus. With the sextile, it's going to be aspecting Mercury. So Mercury has also retrograded back to 23 Monday morning. Mercury is at 23, Venus is at 22. So we have a Mercury-Venus conjunction that's happening on Monday morning, which I think is going to be really sweet. I think that Venus-Mercury conjunction is going to be very telling, very revealing. Mercury is also, has now retrograded back into this trine with Jupiter and Saturn. I think this is going to be good, though. I think it's going to be very telling. I think next week, Monday, starting the 24th, the beginning of Sag season, with this Mercury, Venus, trine Saturn, trine Jupiter, it's going to be very, very interesting. There's going to be a lot of solidification of things happening, a lot of people committing, a lot of people being like, okay, this is what I want, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing. We're going to see people kind of making very clear choices and decisions coming out of the retrograde. Let me see when Mercury goes direct. Hold on. Oh yeah, Mercury goes direct on the 29th, a few days after this. Wow. So Mercury goes direct at 20 degrees Scorpio on the 29th. But it feels like we're getting very key information next week around choices or decisions that we're going to make coming out of the Mercury retrograde. And next week, it's going to be, especially Monday, we're feeling this thing around partnerships and love and, values and, what we really want, what we really desire with Venus and Mercury coming into conjunction. And then them also being trined by Jupiter and Saturn. So as Venus, comes into this trine with Jupiter and Saturn, this is like commitment. This is marriage. This is promises. This is contracts being made. This is it's the 26th of November. So this is someone buying a house, or this is people, moving. This is like we're signing a new residential contract. We're signing a new lease agreement. We're signing a new business contract. We're signing a new, we're getting hired on or something. Or we're even taking maybe holiday jobs, maybe part-time holiday jobs. Someone said it's holiday week. Yeah, it's gonna be very busy. Yeah. It's so crazy how like we had Mars, Sun, Saturn, and now Mercury, Venus, and Mercury already, but we're at Mercury, Venus go into this grand trine with Saturn and Jupiter. We had Mars in this grand trine. We had Sun in this grand trine. We have, we're gonna have Sun trine, the new moon in this grand trine with Saturn, Jupiter, and then, next week we're gonna have Venus and Mercury, in this grand trine. So it's so interesting to see that this grand trine is really aligning us with this new timeline. There's like this purification, there's like this cleanse that's happening. There's like it's like we're being dipped in the bathwaters. I have a court appointment on Monday. If I get my money, I'll move to Portugal. I'm Virgo rising. Oh, that's good for you. I like that for you. Virgo rising, you have Taurus in the ninth house. So look at you're Virgo rising, so you're having ninth house, 11th house, new moon, full moon. And this is really good for you, you know? Um, Also seventh house is court cases, legal battles. The ninth house is like the judge, okay? So when we're looking at court legal things, we're going to be looking at the seventh and the ninth to see what's happening. Well, what do you have happening? The North Node and Saturn are in your seventh house as a Virgo rising. Venus is in a grand trine with Saturn and Jupiter. Venus is your ninth house ruler. This looks really good for you. I like this for you. This looks like you're getting a positive outcome. Jupiter is also in a trine with Venus and Mercury and the Saturn. So I think this is going to go really well for you, Mrs. Katha. Let's go. I think this is going to be very good, very positive outcome for you. I think you're going to get your money. I think you're going to end up moving. I think, everything that's meant to, yeah, this is very positive. This is very good for you. Um, the moon's going to be in Capricorn, which is your fifth house. And we love when the moon's in the fifth house because the fifth house is also a Dharma house. It's a lucky house. The ninth, the fifth, and the first are very lucky houses. So if you wanted it generally, this is a very, very general, rough way of prediction, okay? But if you're trying to predict an outcome of an event that you have a guaranteed date for, like let's say this thing is going to be on Monday, this thing's going to be on Friday, this thing's going to be on Saturday on a specific date, what you want to do is you want to take a look at where the moon is at in transit on that day and what house and what sign the moon is at and what is the moon doing. Because the moon is a planet that changes signs quickest, and the moon is going to be a strong indicator of outcomes, on whether or not you're going to get a good outcome or a bad outcome. Just the quality of the moon, just where it's at. If the moon's in a really good place that day, if it's well supported, if it's positive, if it's in a positive place in your chart on that day, that more than likely indicates a very good positive outcome, right? Um, Obviously, that's a very simple, easy way to look at things. Okay, it's a very simple, easy way to look at things, or when we're using astrology as a predictive science. Okay, but yeah, so next week is looking very, very interesting. So I was talking about Monday. I was talking about how Monday, the moon, where's gonna the moon's at last degrees of Capricorn, but the moon opposes Jupiter on Monday. Now we love that. The moon is making aspects to benefics, all the benefics on Monday. The moon is at 22 degrees, last degrees of Capricorn. sextiling Mercury, Venus, which are benefics, and also opposing Jupiter, which is another benefic. Also aspecting Saturn with the sextile, but the benefics are really, the positive planets are, they got to say here. They're here. They're the ones kind of, with the strong dominant energy. You know what I mean? Um, Saturn is having to listen to Jupiter right now. Saturn is having to respond to Jupiter because Saturn's in Jupiter's territory and Jupiter's exalted, right? So, don't miss the good stuff. Don't miss the expansion, the growth, the opportunity. Don't miss the opportunity for also vulnerability and intimacy and more closeness in your relationships with this astrology this week and next week, especially with this new moon. If it isn't authentic, if it isn't aligned, if it doesn't ring true, if it doesn't feel good in your body, you know what you got to do. It's either got to transform or change or evolve, or you got to create some distance or space from it, because anything that isn't aligned right now should be falling away, should be falling away. If it's not in alignment, it should be falling away right now. Okay. The full moon is trying to show you this, but the new moon is going to double down on that. Whatever isn't aligned with the future, with your destiny, with, the way things are meant to unfold, with your path, with your vision, with your dream, with your well-being, with your own soul's development. If it's not aligned, it may be trying to fall away or end, or maybe trying to evolve in some type of way so it can become aligned. But you gotta pay attention, you gotta listen. It's gonna look different for everybody. It's gonna look different for everybody. But if it's not aligned, if it's not meant to be, it's gonna fall away. I just feel that. And you know what's interesting? It's just like when I say fall away, it just doesn't feel like there needs to be any effort for the release, maybe. I was getting the image of like a glacier, or a piece of a glacier just like falling into the ocean. It's just like long overdue. It's like it was just gonna happen. It's like a nat okay, this is the reason why the image was coming to me, is because Spirit just told me because it's a natural event. It's part of the karmic timeline. It's like we're seeing the falling away or the ending, right? Or the abrupt rupturing of things. We're seeing it as like, oh my God, it's so traumatic and it's so whatever, it's so this. But it's part of this natural process that's supposed to happen. It's like it's supposed to happen this way. It's like it's part of the natural evolution of things. It's part of, the balance between life and death. It's part of your karmic timeline. It's like this was like meant to happen this way. And if we can accept that things are just meant to fall away like this, then we don't have to get all wrapped up in the narrative and the story and become a victim to it and get all sad and be all confused and be all this. We can just be like, you know what? I accept humbly with grace and with love that this is meant to fall away, that this is meant to evolve, that this is come to an end. And that's just what it is. Um, Someone said, what if it comes back around after Mercury retrograde ends? I think we should still, Jupiter and Saturn are still retrograde in aspect to one another. She said, my debt is falling away. I love that for you. New moon in Scorpio. Scorpio is a sign of debt, right? Or one of them. Scorpio is a sign of debt, and so is Pisces, actually. Pisces is a sign that is a connected to debt too. The eighth house and the 12th house have a lot to do with debt. And Scorpio has a lot to do with debt. So your debt falling away. New moon in Scorpio, opposite Uranus, liberating yourself from your debt, liberating yourself from your financial condition. I love that for you. Someone said, what if it comes back around during Mercury retrograde? I just don't trust. I'm just a person. Maybe it's because I'm so cardinal. Maybe it's because I have North Node Jupiter in Aries and I have a Capricorn moon and I have Mars in Libra. Maybe it's just because I'm so cardinal. It's just like when things come back around, it's too late. It's too late already. It's too late to apologize. It's too late. It's like you had to be there. You had to be there. You had your moment, you know? Like Chris Corsini, he posted something about, I don't know if you guys saw this on his, I don't know if you guys love Chris Corsini the way I do. I love me some Chris Corsini, but he's like a popular tarot reader. But what he said, he did a little video where he's like, is this a Gemini thing? He was like, when I call you and you don't answer, don't call me back. He's like, you had to answer. It was in the moment. It was right then and there. Because if you call me back, if you don't answer my phone call and you try to, it's just not the same anymore. It's you missed the moment. You missed the opportunity. Like I was excited. I was calling you right there in that moment and you didn't answer. And like there's no going back. You missed the window. You missed the opportunity, right? I was feeling it in that moment. I had an idea. I was feeling inspired. I wanted to talk to you about something in that moment. And if you don't answer my phone call, don't call me back. That's it. That's it. The moment passed. The moment came and the moment went. And that was it. And let bygones be bygones. You know? He was saying that. He's like, is that a Gemini thing? He's like, don't call me back. He was like, just don't call me back. Don't call me back. I don't want, that's it. You missed your opportunity. If I call you and you don't answer, don't call me back. And that's kind of how I feel about things coming back from the past. It's like, you missed it. You missed the opportunity. Like you had the chance. You know what I mean? So I've been going through a little, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I've been going through a little something, something with like a, I've been going through a little something, something with a friend. And I don't know, it just got really confusing and then ended up being romantic energy and stuff like this and all this stuff. And my thing is like, why did it take you so many months to let me know that you're interested in me? I gave you plenty of opportunities to let me know that, hey, there's something going on here. I'm feeling something. I even told you, I even said, I'm kind of feeling something else here. I'm feeling, I'm catching feelings a little bit. I'm feeling. So after the shit hits the fan, after the cookie crumbles, after all this, now you want to go ahead and tell me, oh, you had your chance. You had months. I gave you plenty of opportunities to let me know that you're interested or that you like me or whatever. But instead, you're giving me all this confusion. You're giving me all these mixed signals. I don't play that. I don't do that. I'm not about that. I'm not about that life. Okay, I'm moving on. If you like me, say something. Do something about it. Okay? I have Jupiter North Node in Aries. I have a moon in Capricorn. I have Mars in Libra. I'm not gonna sit here and just wait and be that's not me. Okay? I swear. People want to go when it comes. Okay, so this is the metaphor I was thinking of, and we're gonna end this soon. I promise. Okay, because we're pretty much on with the week ahead. So if you guys want to listen to my rant, you can stay. Okay. If you like me and if you want to be with me, go through the fucking front door. Knock on the front door and tell me, okay? If love was a house, it seems like people want to go about getting love and getting into the house in any other fucking way than through the front door. You're trying to break in through the back door. You're trying to crawl in through the upstairs window. You're trying to go through the fucking sneak in through the garage. Just knock on the fucking front door and tell me you like me and ask me to come inside. Simple. You want to go through every other fucking way other than go through the front door. Why are we trying to go in through the back door? Why are we trying to break in? Why are we make it make sense? What just this all this indirectness and all this moving sideways and all the shimmying down the trying to shimmy down the fucking chimney. Just tell me you like me. Knock on the fucking door. I like you. Can I take you on a date? Can I come inside? What happened to the simple days? What happened to, you know, show up with the fucking mariachi? Okay, show up with the mariachi, confess your love to me. Make it easy, make it simple, make it clear. All right? You're over here trying to go in through the back door. What the fuck is going on? I don't have time for this. I don't need this in my life. I don't need confusion. I don't need, okay, I'm a mansion. I know it's a little intimidating knocking on my door because why? My love. It's a mansion. I get it. Okay, you have to walk up 2 miles of driveway just to get to my door. I understand that. I get that. I'm a very complicated person. I have a high expectations. I have Venus in Scorpio. I have a Capricorn moon. Listen, I have eighth house Mars in Libra. I've gone through some bullshit when it comes to love and relationships. I've been deceived. I've been cheated on. I've been betrayed. All my relationship planets are afflicted. I have a detriment, a moon in detriment, Venus in detriment. I have an eighth house Mars in Libra with the South Node. Okay, I got some love karma, but I'm not trying to play this. I'm not trying to recreate any of these stories around deception and hiding and shame and guilt. And no, I'm done with that. That's a past life thing. We're over this. I'm over playing games like this. Okay. If you like me, if you want me, knock on my motherfucking door, say something, do something about it. I'm done with this confuse. If you're not confident enough, if you're not self-assured enough, if you're not honest enough, clear enough to be like, hey, I like you, I want you, let's do something about it, then keep your ass over there. Keep your ass over there. Leave me alone. Don't bother me. Okay? Don't get me all emotionally entangled. Don't try to I just don't have time for that. It just at this point, it just makes me mad and it pisses me off at this point, okay? Because I'm so easy. I'm so simple. I'm so easy. Like I'm so open. I'm so clear. I'm not complicated. I know myself very well. I'm very understanding. I got a big heart. I'm very loving. I'm very compassionate. I'm not a complicated person. I'm a very easy person to love. But goddamn, why can't you just go through the front door? You know what I mean? Just go. Just go through the front door. Knock on the front door. I would like to take you on a date. I'm interested in you. You're trying to go through the fucking back door. You're trying to crawl through the motherfucking chimney. You're trying to break in through the window. What are we doing? You know what I mean? Like it's like it's fucked up. Let me tell you the games. Let me tell you something, okay? People are so fucking insecure that they'd rather manipulate you into you liking them than just being honest and upfront with telling you that I like you because they're afraid of rejection. So they'd rather play fucking mind games and manipulate and strategize to get you to love them or to get you some kind of relate. What are we doing? You're so in. What are we doing? You don't have to manipulate me into liking you. I would have done that anyways. I would have manipulated myself into liking you. Like, why do you have to go ahead and it's just what the fuck is going on? I'm so over it. I'm just so over it. It pisses me off. It does because the thing is like come to me with clarity, with correctness. You don't have to manipulate. You don't have to gaslight. You don't have to go ahead and compare me to others and get me to get all jealous. You don't have to do all that, baby, because I can see all of that. I can see all of that. I'm a fucking psychic. I'm intuitive. I can see through the bullshit. I'm so clear. I have a connection to spirit that's so strong, okay? I'm gonna pull cards on you, and the cards are gonna tell me everything that I fucking need to know about you. Anything that you're hiding, anything that you're avoiding, any kind of sideways ways that you're trying to move and whatever. I'm gonna see it. I'm gonna know it, okay? And once I see it and once I know it, well, guess what? It's gonna piss me off. It's gonna make me mad. And I'm gonna call you out on it. And you're not gonna like it because you know why? I'm gonna expose you and it's gonna make you feel very, very uncomfortable. Because it's supposed to, Because I'm not a person that does things in the shadows. I I'm a truth bringer. I'm an oracle. I'm a light bringer. I'm here to reveal things. I'm a Scorpio stellium in the ninth house. Okay, like a Pisces rising. It's like I'm here to reveal. I bring things. My energy. I am someone that brings things to the light. That's what I do. That's what I can't help it. No matter if you're in my life and if you want to be in hiding and things like this, don't come around me. Okay, just stay away from me because just me being in your life me being connected to you, you will be brought to the light. I promise you. You will be brought to the light. Okay. You will be revealed. Things will be exposed. You will transform and change. I cannot help this. This is the way that I am. This is what I was put here on earth to do. This is my journey. My journey in this lifetime is to bring clarity, to bring truth, to bring, to bring light. I'm a light bringer. Okay. And if you are someone that prefers hiding in the shadows and moving in the shadows, stay away from me because I'm going to bring light into your life. And what I expose or reveal within you or about you may not like that. It may make you uncomfortable. And you may not be ready to confront your own shadows, your own darkness, but let me tell you something. I'm going to reveal it and expose it all. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in a nice, in MLA format. I'm going to put it in a nice 10-page paper for you and explain it for you. Very detailed, very oriented, very okay, so that you know what you got to work on. Because I'm not here, we're not playing these games. I'm too old for this. I'm 38. We're too old to be playing games like this. Come on. We got to evolve. We got to get it together. We got to be better. You know what I mean? It's just crazy to me. Like, what is going on? I'm actually, and you know what though? I'm actually mad at myself. I'm a little mad at myself as well because I also, you know, it takes two to tango. It's never just one person's fault. It's never the other person's fault. Okay. Someone said very poetic format. That's funny. Um, because I also entertained it, you know. It takes two to tango. It's never just the other person's fault, you know. It takes two to create a certain dynamic, and I ended up putting myself into a position, and you live and you learn. You know what I mean? It was all I realized. It was all part of my karmic development. It was all part of my karmic story too. You know. So, but I definitely learned this lesson this time around in a much more humble, much more respectful way. Okay, I was nice. I was nice about it. Okay. I didn't just let the volatility of my Capricorn moon, Venus and Scorpio, my eighth house Mars. I didn't just go straight toxic and go straight angry and crazy. Very compassionate with how I handled the situation, and I've been very nice about it. It's listen, niceness is a I've had to work on that. Okay, I've had to work on being nice. Okay, because when you have the combination of Capricorn and Scorpio in your chart, I don't know if anyone else has the combination of Capricorn and Scorpio, but we could be mean. We could be mean. We could be very, very mean. Scorpio and Capricorn are signs, especially when people have the combination of both of those, where they can be really, really mean. And I'm very proud of how I've handled the situation with grace and with delicacy and with patience and with love. I'm proud of myself because it really shows that I've come a long way in how I deal with bullshit, other people's bullshit, and also not allowing other people's stuff to impact me or to like taking it personal. You know what I mean? Because I realized one of the other things I realized is like the way most of people's behaviors and patterns, especially in relationships and how they treat others and stuff, it does have a lot to do with their trauma. It has a lot to do with survival. People that grew up having to survive very dangerous environments, very traumatic environments, or chaotic or unstable environments, they develop certain mechanisms, personality characteristics, certain ways of dealing with others to survive. And so, you may think like they may be incredibly selfish or incredibly shallow, or they may be incredibly, you may see them as like, oh, they're just always looking to see what they can get from people. Well, guess what? A lot of people in childhood, that brought them through their childhood. They needed to develop that kind of those qualities of character and those behavioral patterns in order to survive their childhood, right? And so, but the issue and the problem is when they keep doing those behaviors and those patterns and those habits, right? And they keep doing that to people when they're older. Like there has to be a point of evolution where we realize, the defense mechanisms, the processes, the behaviors that we developed or cultivated in childhood, a lot of times from a place of trauma or survival, we no longer need those anymore. So we have to grow out of them. We have to grow beyond them, right? Because a lot of our patterns and our behaviors and our habits and things like this, right, we developed as a matter of circumstance. You know what I mean? But in the realization of understanding that, this is just the way somebody is, this is the way someone operates, that also allows us to not take it personal when we become a victim to, or when we experience, something challenging, something difficult, or even some kind of mistreatment by them, we can understand, oh, wait, this is not about me. This is something that they do to everybody, or this is a pattern that they have, right? This is something that they've done to many friends. This is something they've done to many exes. And that's one of the things you'll realize, like, with a lot of people, especially people that, you know, they are manipulative, or they're conniving, or they're controlling, or they're whatever. You're not the first person that they did that to, you know and you're probably not going to be the last. They tend to have a pattern of doing this. It's something that they do. It's like they do it person after person after person. So, yeah, but holding them accountable to it, like helping them see the pattern, because a lot of them, they can't see it. They can't see the patterns. They can't see their behaviors. They can't, they think that it's just normal to act that way, to treat people this way, right? Or to experience relationships in that way. But so it's kind of like, yeah, yeah, Artie said we're just collateral damage. Yeah. But it's important that you do your best by not taking it personal. You help, if they're willing to see it, you help them see it. You're able to be like, hey, listen, this is what you did to me. This is what you done to this person. This is what you did to this person. Look at this pattern behavior. And what that does is that frees us from the victim mentality, because we can realize, wait a minute, it's not about us. It's not, we don't take it personal. And it also allows us to educate them and to give them perspective, and to be like, hey, listen, like, this is one of the things I've noticed that you're doing. You did it to me. It has nothing to do with me, but you should work on this, because this quality of character, this behavior, this pattern is not healthy, or it's not good. And it's also why you're ruining a lot of relationships, or you're sabotaging a lot of relationships, right? It's crazy when you're friends and they reveal the pattern and then forget they told you, they do it to you. And a lot of people can't help it though. They can't help it. They really can't. Because this is how they operate in their relationships. You know what I mean? And that's how, I cannot tell you how many times it's happened to me, where someone was telling me, "Oh yeah, I did, like, okay, we're gonna wrap up in a bit because it's already 3 hours and it's 1 o'clock. Okay, we're gonna wrap up in a bit, but I'm gonna wrap it up with this. So there was this person that I was talking to years, like, not years ago, but a few years ago, and this person was telling me that they showed me that they're a very hateful person, and they said that they strongly disliked their ex-boyfriend. They even used the word hate. They were like, I hate my ex. And they expressed to me, what I realized about this person is that they're a very hateful person in general. They use the word hate all the time. They hate this, they hate that, they hate this, right? So right away when they told me this, my spidey senses went up, and my red flag, I had like immediate red flag, and I was like, oh my gosh, well, if you hate your ex, and if you hate this person and this person, at some point you're more than likely going to end up hating me, or you're going to be abusive towards me. Because also another thing I realized about this person is they were abusive. They had an abusive personality. They like to be abusive to the people that they interact with. So they were telling me things about, past relationships, and how they were abusive, just straight up verbally abusive or physically abusive in relationships. Like, they just very just open, just telling me everything. I'm like, okay, well, people will, if you listen, people will tell you who they are. People are going to tell you exactly how they're going to treat you. And they're going to tell you how they're going to treat you based on what they tell you about how they treat other people, right? So a few weeks went by. Me and this person had a falling out, and all that behavior that they were telling me about what they did to other people, they started doing it to me. I noticed that they were literally started being neglectful towards me and being hateful towards me, and it like their energy shifted. Like, all of a sudden I became the enemy, like, from one day to the next. And I was just waiting for it. I was like, I know you're gonna flip on me. I know that there's just gonna come a point where you are just like, you just fucking lash out at me, or you just decide that, you know what, I actually don't like you anymore. I hate you. And that point came. And it proved and I was ready for it. I was ready for it though, because I was like, okay, this person's telling me about who they are, and they're telling me everything about how they treat people, and all of this is just terrible, red flag. And I know that there's gonna come a point where this person's gonna turn on me, and sure enough, it happened like a few weeks later. So we got people will tell you who they are. Do not think that you are the exception. Okay? Because just the way they treat their mama, just the way they treat their daddy, just the way they treat their kids, just the way they treat their spouses and their exes, baby, guess what? They're gonna treat you the same way. Quite possibly. Unless they learned, unless they grew, unless, they've evolved, they're going to treat you the same. And we think we're so special. We tend to think we're the exception. We're like, oh, I'm the exception. Oh, he would never. How many times in a movie have you seen that? Like, there's that. There's like this. I can't even. There's like this is like a trope in a movie. The best friend is like, girl, you need to watch out for that man, because he did this, this, and this to this person and this person. And then she's like, I know, but he's I'm different. He's never gonna do that to me. He's never gonna treat me that way. He's been so blah 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 with me up until now, or he'll never do that to me. Well, you go and find out, okay? You go and find out. You're gonna find out. You're gonna find out. And when he does it to you, what are we gonna say? In unison, everybody. I told you so. I told you so. Where's the Ariel t-shirt, Louis? But Daddy, I love him. But Daddy, I love him. You know what's so interesting actually? What there was like this whole conspiracy theory I was reading, this conspiracy theory I was reading about. Where it's talking about how Ariel is actually a siren and that Eric actually wasn't in love with Ariel, that she actually sang her song and put him under a spell, so he actually wasn't authentically in love with Ariel. He just fell in love with her voice because she's a siren, and she's actually manipulating him into being in love with her, but he's actually not genuinely, authentically in love with her. He's only in love with her voice, and he heard her siren singing, and so he fell in love with her because of that. So, yeah, so that conspiracy theory ruined my childhood. It ruined my one of my favorite movies because I love The Little Mermaid. It's one of my favorites. Someone said gasp. No, Louis, mind blown. Yeah. All right, my loves. Well, this has been great. Everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out. Um, go through the front door. Let's wrap this up, okay? Um, you know, either come correct or don't come at all, okay? If you want entry to my house, go through the front door. Don't try to break in. Don't try to shimmy through the fucking chimney. Don't try to go through the back window. What are we doing? Okay? This is going to be a very intense new moon in Scorpio. This new moon coming up on Wednesday night, Thursday morning is about emancipation and freedom. It's about rebellion. It's about doing things differently, doing things authentically. It's about shifting your narrative, shifting your story. It's about releasing yourself from unhealthy or trauma-based narratives or stories of the past. So this could be with family, this could be with love and romance, this could be with friends. Like there's something about we need to move away from the past. We need to find closure and acceptance with the past. And the past is coming back to haunt us during this new moon cycle. But it's okay. We got to deal with it. We got to wrestle with it. We got to clear it out. We got to transmute it. We got to heal it. We got to converse with it, right? But ultimately, we got to leave it behind. And this new moon is giving us this opportunity to really reason with the past, to reckon with the past, and find closure or release with it so that we can move forward into this new timeline, right? Yeah, and this is a beautiful new moon for setting long-term intentions, setting long-term goals. It's a beautiful new moon for to get information. So if you want to petition Mercury for this new moon, you want to ask Mercury to bring you more clarity, bring you insight, bring you more information, bring you truth. This is a beautiful new moon to do that with as well. And yeah, I love you all so much. We're starting Sag season this week. So Sag season starts on Saturday, and it's gonna be a fun, feisty, wild one. I will say we have Mars and Sag, so a lot of travel, a lot of exploration, a lot of kind of new beginnings, a lot of expansion. Going into foreign territory, going into foreign lands. Doing new things. This is something that we want to really embrace and embody with this new moon, okay? But I love you all so much. Everyone that's been here for the last 3 hours. Wow. Can't believe you all been hanging out for that long, but I love you. Thank you for being here for so long. Holy moly, I did not expect this live to go so long. My books will be reopening. My books will be reopening in December. Okay. So December 1st, I'm gonna have my books open again. We're gonna start doing readings again. I just, needed to take some time off. Really needed to just be in my own energy. So yeah, I'll put the book appointment link will show up again. And if you guys are interested in booking a reading, you can, okay? But I love you all so much. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Take care of yourselves. Be well. I might do another live on the new moon, but I might not. I don't know because I feel like a lot of this live today was literally about the new moon. If anything, if I do a new moon live in Scorpio, it'll be more more like horoscopes for the signs. Okay, it'll be like more horoscopes for the signs. So I might just go and do like a little new moon insight or a new moon breakdown for you based on your rising sign. So I'll give you guys more deets on that over the next couple days. If I do that, it'll be Wednesday morning. It'll be Wednesday morning. Okay? Mwah! I love you all so much. Let me take a look at see what we got going on here. Yeah, someone said something about there's dark energy around. You can it's not your energy, right? You manifest from your own energetic output, okay? So there may be a lot of dark, heavy energy around, my loves, but you really got to make sure you're staying energetically grounded and energetically centered in your own light and your own energy. Because, despite the world falling apart and everything crashing and burning, it seems like, we still move forward, that just the world's narrative, society's narrative doesn't have to be our own, right? There's still a lot of people thriving and growing and doing amazing things right now, despite what, the kind of collective narrative is. So, really embrace, you know, we're entering a timeline that's just very, very different than anything we've seen before. We're entering a timeline that's going to be about community connection. It's going to be about authenticity. It's going to be about more entrepreneurial venture and more, creative venture and more how we serve others with our own skills, our own talents, our own gifts, We're moving towards a timeline that's not so disconnected from self, that's not so materialistic. We're moving towards a timeline that's more cerebral, more social, more intellectual, more creative, that's not so focused on money and success and career in the material world. We're moving to a timeline that's more spiritual and cerebral and intellectual. Okay. So, we don't want to attach ourselves so much to oh, I got to do this for money, and oh, I want to be successful, and I want to be rich. Like we don't want like those are things that we don't want anymore. We want peace, we want joy, we want contentment, we want equality, we want freedom, we want space to be who we are, right? The collective destiny is shifting, and we got to just lean into that, okay? So, all right. I love you all so much. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Take care of yourselves. Be well. We'll continue this conversation about the future. We'll continue this conversation about what's to come. But, I think it's really important that we don't attach ourselves too much to this capitalistic idea of success. I think it's really important that we embrace the truth that success is something that we got to define for ourselves right now. And success is not going to look like six-figure income, you know, full-time job. Success doesn't look like that no more. It just doesn't. The way, societal success and the way we define success is evolving right now. And, I really want you to ask yourself, what does success look like in your life for you, to you, right? What does success look like for you, to you? What would a successful life look like for you, right? And not in comparison to others, just in your own life with what you want for yourself, okay? So I'll leave you guys with that little food for thought, okay? I love you. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Take care of yourselves. Be well. Drink your water. Get enough sleep. Okay. Take your vitamin D and magnesium. All right. Do some stretches. Do some yoga. Go on a walk. Take care of yourself. All right. I love you all. I'll see you around. I'll see you on the flip side. Okay. Bye.